and I've been silent for too long.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mile Higher podcast.
What is up, all of our Mile Higher homies? We are back, episode number 26 today.
Yes. How you guys doing? Today?
Yeah, how are you all doing? We are doing
We
fine.
literally just asked fucking 3 times.
We're having one of those days,
We've done this intro like 4 times in a row.
And we're probably just overthinking this like majorly, but let us know what you think of the new intro. Hopefully it's better, a step up.
Yeah, we're trying. Like some people like rip us for our janky podcast because I'm like recording it on my laptop.
Yeah. I mean,
so we're trying to step it up a little bit.
We're trying to figure it out.
How'd that go, y'all? Let us know. Okay, moving right into things here.
Yes.
We have more important shit to talk about today.
Today is a very exciting episode because we are changing directions majorly, and that is a good thing, I think, after weeks of talking about these families that are just will keep you up at night. Let's just say that.
Yep.
And
make you question your life.
Yeah, exactly. Not just your life, your fucking everything, government, everything. So
that would all fall into the category of your life. Just saying.
You're right. But today we are going into the past, to the very, very deep past of this universe, and we're talking about the ancient Sumerians and their civilization, and the Anunnaki, and basically
people are
how
like the
it began.
The what?
Anahudawadi. The Anunnaki, which we will talk about
and
more
stuff,
later.
Especially the Sumerians that like I feel like a lot of people don't know anything about. Everyone knows about the Egyptians, but like barely anyone knows about the Sumerians. And the Sumerians are like honestly in some ways more interesting, I think.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the Egyptians weren't popular, but these guys were like essential to literally everything being the way that it is today.
And it's something that is skimmed so often in school,
or just unheard of. Like I honestly don't remember ever learning about
Sumerians. I don't remember either.
Civilization at all. Zero.
No, I learned a ton about the Mayans, ton about the Egyptians, and like the ancient
the
Chinese
too.
Cultures, like the dynasties.
Yeah, it's weird how they just
they skip
conveniently
this one, and this is the
Sumerians.
most like important one, really. So that's my question going into this, guys. Is like keep your mind open to why. Maybe they didn't want you to learn it in school,
I think by the end of the podcast, you'll be able to determine the answer to that in at least some form, because I know I did when I started learning about all of this. But we're going to dive into all that today, which is very exciting. And, I know a lot of you, it's been over 20 weeks since we last talked about ancient Egypt on the podcast, which that was like one of the main topics we wanted to do with the podcast, was dive into ancient civilizations and all the history and mystery surrounding them. So I'm so happy that we're finally here and back.
Hell yeah.
We're back on track. We're back on schedule.
Yes, we are. Barely. I was like hanging by a thread this morning. So
because we love this stuff just personally. Like we spend a lot of time watching documentaries and shows on TV and on the internet about these ancient civilizations and stuff. So this is just like a personal interest of ours. And, it's honestly really what, at least for me, gives me that like thirst and passion to travel and stuff. So
totally,
like you want to go see this stuff after you learn about it. You're like,
you really
I got to see this with my own eyes, so that I can get a better idea of what we're learning about. So,
yeah.
But yes, as you can tell, I'm very excited about this. So we will hop right into it as quick as we can today. But before we do, we want to quickly just mention our favorite CBD products.
Yes.
From bilegalmeds.com.
I wanted to mention it again today because this stuff is like really, really helping me, you guys. I can't tell you enough how important CBD is if you experience pain. I know you guys, a lot of you following me on Instagram, and today I was posting about how we had rain today. When it changes from really hot outside to rain, my pain seems to get so much worse. Like it just inflames everywhere. So this is Activate CBD. This is from bilegalmeds.com. And this particular one is 325 milligrams.
For the whole bottle.
For the whole bottle.
Per dose.
No, not per dose. So you can add this to any drink. I'm adding this to my... I know you guys are going to ask because every time they want to know what is in my Starbucks cup every fucking time. So this is a dragon fruit mango refresher with coconut milk, and then I just add my CBD right into there, and it helps me so much, but doesn't make me feel tired.
Right.
It helps me, especially even with ADD, it helps my brain kind of calm down and focus while we're podcasting. I can't recommend this product enough. I just wanted to, shout them out again today. I probably wouldn't even be in this chair right now if I didn't have CBD.
It's basically been life-saving in a lot of ways, and for a lot of people, and for Kendall specifically, CBD seems to be one of the only things that helps with her. It's
the only thing I've given up complete. I don't do any Advil, any of that anymore.
So it really does work, and if you've never tried it, I highly recommend you do. It's 100% legal. You can ship it to all 50 states.
And not just for pain, for anxiety.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I use it for. I don't have any pain, but for me, it just kind of takes that edge off. And I mean, I sleep. You want to like lucid dream and like astral project and shit. Like, dude, some Cloud9 syrup will definitely help you get there. Like, just because of all of the different herbs that are in it and all the different sleep stuff that's in there. I have the best dreams. I swear by it. I mean, every single time I take a little bit of that before bed. Boom.
I don't know if it's the best dreams for me, but it's the most like wild.
No, it's like vivid dreaming. It's like movies. If you want just like unlimited movie rentals.
Well, don't promise this. I don't know if that would happen for everyone, but both of us have experienced that.
Yes.
For me, the last couple of nights, I've been mad dreaming about being in school again. Like I've been telling Josh every morning, like, I feel like I'm in school and I'm failing. In my dreams, I'm always checking my grades online and like seeing that I'm failing everything. And I'm like, fuck.
Dude, that's a horrible dream.
And then I'm like, oh shit, it's like November and I haven't even been to my English class yet. I wonder if I can save it.
Oh shit. That's hilarious.
In my dream last night, my manager was like helping me figure out if I could save any of my grades.
Wow.
It's so funny how the mind works. But
seriously though, yeah, dreaming is crazy.
It's really the best stuff. And to end this little section
the reason why we want to bring it up is because
getting there.
Oh, you are? Okay, sorry.
Well, I was telling them about our code.
Oh, okay, go for it.
We have a new code from Bilegal Meds. It is Mile Higher for a very generous 20% off.
Yes.
Take advantage of this code. I don't even know how long they'll have it. Who knows, That's a really good deal, and you will not regret it. You will get this stuff and be like, Kendall, thanks, mama.
Yeah, like we've tried a lot of different CBD products, but this is by far the best, and we're not just saying that because, we work with them or whatever, but it is actually really good stuff. It's top of the line CBD oil, and it's infused into all sorts of stuff. They got fucking chapstick if you want it. We could be working with a bunch of different ones, but we love Bilegal Meds. Yeah, I'll just say that. It's my favorite CBD because we are personal fans of the product. We use the product and we love it. So we thought we'd share it with y'all. So enjoy. But yes, thank you to Bilegal Meds, and also thank you to all of you guys for supporting the podcast. Like seriously, it's been so encouraging. We are getting close to on our way to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is truly incredible. The listens go up every week. I mean, this has just been a literal dream come true, especially for me. Yeah. Because, I got into this with no idea how this would go, if this would be something that people like. I had no idea. I took a huge risk doing this. I quit my whole fucking job, my career, everything I ever worked for, left it all behind to come get woke with y'all. So
yeah, you did. You took a risk. You did, and it's gone great. And we are so thankful. We love this.
Seriously.
We have been looking forward to recording this specific episode for like days.
Yes. No, we get very excited about it, and we really do love this. And again, we're not experts. We're not teachers. We're just normal folks that are interested in this shit like you guys are. So that's all it is. And we just wanted to feel like a cozy hangout with us, like you're chilling with us at this table. So
cozy hangout.
I hope you feel that. But yeah, so thank you guys.
A cup of tea and get ready for the tea.
Yeah, no, exactly. Get ready for the tea.
This is the real fucking tea. You think the YouTube drama is the tea? No, the Sumerians have the fucking tea. You want the tea? You're right where you need to be, man.
People are looking for the wrong things on YouTube these days, but that's all I got to say.
Amen.
Like there's way more juicy stuff out there that a lot of people are missing out, and they're worried about, whatever else is going on in the world. TanaCon, it's like cool.
That was pretty bad though. I feel bad for people. That burnt out.
If we ever did a convention, I promise you guys it will not be like
that. We probably will never do a convention for this reason. No.
That's true.
Oh my God, but no. Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
People were burned. Okay, anyways,
this is not about TanaCon. Okay, sorry.
And shout out to all of you. I feel bad. Like, that sucks.
Yes.
Anyone who was there. Were any of our subscribers fucking there? Leave us a comment.
Well, I'm sure there probably were some people
below.
that also like Shane Dawson, listen to this. So
yes, for sure.
Guarantee you there's people there. So feel for you.
I felt so bad for Shane. The whole thing was just so.
Seriously.
I feel bad for everyone. Okay.
But anyways, thank you all out there. Plus, as always, thank you to all of our patrons. Seriously. Couldn't do it without you guys. Seriously, we still have some monetization issues with YouTube. And it's very annoying, and we really have they just don't ever explain why anything happens. So it's kind of a guessing game most of the time. So we really do appreciate anybody that is a patron. Yeah. And that's why we shout them out every week, is because they really do help support this podcast and keep it going, keep it growing. So
definitely helped us launch this podcast 100%. We wouldn't have been able to launch it without our Patreon.
Everything you see in here, the studio, is all Patreon support.
So hell yeah to you.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. And you don't have to be a patron to support us. Actually, one thing that really does help is if you could just go on iTunes and leave us a rating or a review. It really does help us. Or review or rating on any platforms that you listen to the Mile Higher podcast on. So it does help. It just helps, those particular sites promote us more, because we're a highly rated podcast. And it'd be awesome to see like a podcast talking about the Sumerians in like the top 10 on iTunes one day. Don't you think that'd be cool?
That'd be lit.
That'd be really cool. So this week's Patreon question comes from Jen R, and this is a kind of a different one than normal because it's not super deep, but it's: would you ever do trips around the country to meet with fans? I love you both and look forward to all your vids and podcasts. From Jen R. That was very nice.
Would you ever do?
They were wondering if we get asked this a lot of, would you guys ever do meetup or tour? Yeah, like a tour. We were actually talking about this the other day. We're like, maybe one day down the road,
Yeah, no, I would love to do something like that. I can't even think about doing that right now because I'm in so much pain. I couldn't ever do a tour or something or anything like that, Yeah. Didn't Miranda Sings have to like stop her tour because she's pregnant because it was like so intense?
Yeah, it could be.
I feel like I would get exhausted. Not that I'm pregnant, but sometimes I feel like it.
Sorry, can't go on tour. Kendall's prego.
No, but yeah, one day if I'm ever like, if I get it together and, I feel like I will, hopefully I'll figure this out, then I would want to. Yeah,
I think it'd be super fun just to merely like travel, give us an excuse to travel, the world,
the country,
even.
And just to like put more faces with like our content. Like who's watching. It helps a lot to meet people. Like it's always really fun for us to meet someone and that way you kind of have them in your head when you're talking. Mm-hmm.
It really does help. It helped me a lot.
I would love to do that. We definitely would do that. So I think it would be like a matter of finding a company that knows how to like set that shit up for us to like help. Because I know that's basically what people do.
Yeah, it's kind of the same idea of like running a convention,
right? Like
you can't just like slap it together,
right? And I want it to be very secure. I'm like, ever since Christina Grimmie died a few years ago, that just really like hit me personally, and I just feel like I need ample security. So I would want like a company to do it. So no one's hit us up yet. So.
But I definitely see in the future us doing something like that because I think it would be really fun. And obviously, when the fact that we're into this, there's a lot of other people that are also into this. It's really cool to just talk this kind of stuff with other people that get it, that just understand where we're coming from. Yeah. Because some people, sometimes I feel judged talking about it with certain people. And, I know some of you have told us that. And, sometimes people can look at you and be like, you're fucking crazy. Like, you believe this? Really? Okay.
Yeah.
You think the Illuminati's real? Really? Okay. So, we get it. And that's why I think it'd be cool to connect with you guys. So,
yeah. It'd be really fun.
The last thing I wanted to bring up, though.
I wanted to bring up something real fast, though. Hang on. I just have a little thing to say. I just wanted to do a little shout out to everyone who's written us letters or sent like really sweet little gifts to us in the past like month or two. We just went to our P.O. box and I was just like overwhelmed by how many letters there were of people that were just worried about me and like my health, and like people even sent really nice gifts. You guys know who you are. And yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who did that. Like all of your letters seriously meant so much to me, and I read every single one, and I feel really, really I feel loved, and I feel happy to be here today because of all the love.
Seriously. Yeah, it's encouraging, man. I mean, it definitely helps because, like, I don't think a lot of people realize that, like, doing this, for us, it's essentially we're just sitting here talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's really nice to, you know, make those connections with people and hear from you guys. I mean, obviously we get it in the comments and everything else, but you know, when somebody takes like the time to handwrite something or send something, it's pretty cool. So
yeah,
seriously, we do appreciate it. And if you're wondering, because I'm sure somebody will ask where they can find our PO box address, it's in the description of this video at the very bottom. So if it's in there, if you want to write me a letter.
Write me a letter. Write me some mail, baby.
But yes, thank you for bringing that up. But the last thing before we get into Sumerians, I'm sorry. I just wanted to talk about
this is our subtopic for
because
today.
We had been, yes, it is our subtopic for today. Because we had been talking about this for the past couple episodes.
Yes. And we didn't get to like update you guys last time.
So, hooray. The Thailand cave rescue was a success, and if you didn't know, everybody got out that was trapped in there. So the 12 boys, the coach. So very good news on that front. And obviously, I'm sure many of you heard there was one fatality, and that was one of the Thai SEALs that had gone in there trying to bring more oxygen tanks to the stranded team, and he died as he was swimming out. He just went unconscious, and then they tried to resuscitate him, but he passed. So,
and he was a retired SEAL. He wasn't even required to be there.
No, so he completely volunteered to help. So I just wanted to just kind of wrap that story up because it was just such a fascinating story. I mean, there was 10,000 different people that participated in this rescue. There was 2,000 soldiers, 200 divers. There's literally representatives from 100 government agencies. And something that a lot of people didn't even realize is that, and something that had come out after, because I actually did a whole video covering this in depth.
Yeah,
if you want to hear all the details and everything,
I'll link it for you. Reading.
But yeah, I kind of go through the whole thing.
Covered.
But I didn't get this bit of info in there because I did the video before it was released. And that was they actually used plastic cocoons for the boys. I didn't know this. They brought these like plastic cocoons in, and they would basically strap them like mummy style on these like little cocoons that would wrap them up, and then they would have their little air mask on, and then they would swim them out. Because I had assumed that the boys actually swam out, like
I thought so too,
dived out, but they actually put them in these.
Was that in your video?
Cocoons? No, it wasn't. Oh. I know. I was bummed that this came out right after I put my video up, but yeah, they basically like stretchered them out, and they were able to pull them.
To like breathe and like kind of hang out in there.
Yeah.
What if they like hit their head on something?
Well, that's the thing is like there was a diver in the front of the cocoon and one in the back, so they would have to like steer them through without hitting anything, which I'm sure was incredibly difficult.
That would be so hard for them all to have swam out. That makes more sense that they were in there.
Yeah.
Wow. God, that's so weird.
Isn't it?
That would feel so weird to be in one of those, just kind of like breathing and hoping everything goes well. Like
seriously,
it's pitch black, dude. Like I don't think any of us even have any idea what this was like for these kids.
They were in.
This will make one fucking good movie.
Which it is being. They're literally starting to make a movie about this. Actually, yeah. No, I know. I wasn't surprised, but literally, like the boys would have to be in these cocoons for 40 minutes at a time underwater in like bone chilling water, just like sitting there just trying to stay calm basically. But they did say that they gave them anti-anxiety meds.
Yeah,
like they gave them
probably some Xanax.
Seriously though, that'd be crazy.
Just like chilling in there.
But can you even imagine that? I can't even.
Yeah, to avert from panic attacks. That's smart though. They had to do that. If they didn't do that, the kids could have freaked out and then suffocated or
killed everybody involved. Yeah, the other divers, they could pull an air hose from one of them and they're done, dude. That's like you have little time to fix that. No, it's an absolutely like astonishing story, and the fact that everybody got out safely other than the one Thai SEAL is like just incredible.
That is,
because I think when we first all heard it, we're like, oh shit, this is not gonna end well. Like,
I didn't think it was like, I thought they were dead inside of the cave because I figured they drowned in it. Mm-hmm. Like I thought the water caught up with them and they drowned. It's amazing that they are all alive. It's seriously incredible.
Seriously. And so many people risk their lives, and there's so many heroes in this. So bravo to all of you guys. Like, cheers. Like, that was absolutely incredible. Complete bravery. Like, I don't think I would go into a dark cave and dive underwater and risk my life to like try to like, I don't know. I just don't know that I would do that. And I mean, maybe I think differently if I was a diver, but I don't know. Even if I was, that's like crazy.
Do with your life, you know, protect people and risk your life. That they know what they're getting into.
And this was like extreme conditions too. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how crazy this cave dive was. It was insane. Like, these British cave divers that were like considered the best in the world actually helped with the rescue, and they said over and over again that this was like one of the most difficult dives they've ever done in their entire life, and this was just to rescue these boys. So it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it really
what everybody went through and how well it you know worked out in the end. So wow. That's all I gotta say is wow. And seriously, cheers to all the heroes in this, and especially the fallen Thai seal, Saman Gunan. So, and if you want to know more about it, definitely check out my video. I'll link it for you guys. But let's get into the Sumerian civilization.
Oh, this is so cool, you guys. This stuff is so fucking interesting.
All right, guys.
I'm so excited for this. Oh, get ready here.
So it's known as the name Sumerian is the actual name of the civilization is the Sumer or Sumeria civilization. I'm going to refer to it as Sumeria. I know there's a couple different names for it, but I think Sumer, Sumerian, I'm just going to call it Sumeria. So Sumeria. Many people agree that Sumeria is basically the first civilization on the planet. The first advanced in the sense of like caveman like civilization to like an actual organized society. So many people think this was the very beginning, Sumeria.
That's crazy.
And not only that, but they also many also believe that the Sumerian language is the very first like spoken language, and it's considered to be a language isolated in linguistics that does not seem to belong to any known linguistic form. So they are like completely unique because they are essentially the first language. So with that being said, many people think that Sumer is where the very beginning of life on this planet in the form of human civilization began. So the first Sumerians were known to settle in Mesopotamia over 7,000 years ago, as far as we know, which when talking about ancient civilizations, you know, these are like pretty rough estimates.
Yeah,
you know,
there's
like
a lot of maybe involved.
It's like, because we don't know for sure. And that's the way a lot of this information is like we can do our best to, you know, approximate the time. But 7,000 years ago, when you think about it, is a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long, long time ago. And so this region known as Mesopotamia came from the Greek word meaning meso, which means middle, and Potamia meaning rivers, because the two rivers in this area, Mesopotamia, is extremely instrumental in this early civilization, Sumeria's success. And the two rivers are the Tigris. Where's the other one at? I just lost it.
Euphrates? Tigris
Euphrates.
And Euphrates.
Yes, sorry. Yes, the Euphrates River. So Sumeria is recognized as the cradle of man's modern origins, the first modern civilization. And the civilization literally exploded with cultural firsts and incredible human achievements. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about, you're going to be like, holy shit, that's where that came from?
Yeah.
You're like, damn, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm. You're literally going to be like, why did I not learn this?
Yes.
Why are these people not important enough
Seriously,
to learn about?
like,
That's
why
crazy.
is there not like at least a chapter
That's
dedicated
a conspiracy
to them?
in itself, is like the education
Why is this
system.
being sort of hidden?
Jesus.
So by the 4th millennium BC, Sumeria had established itself with an advanced system of writing, spectacular arts, architecture, astronomy, and mathematics. And the origin of the Sumerians remains a mystery to this day. We still don't know where they came from exactly, or even who or what they were, essentially. We don't have any way of knowing exactly where their DNA came from. And they actually called themselves the Sagiga, which is the black-headed or bald-headed ones, and their country, Kenji, civilized land. And some believe they came from around Anatolia or modern-day Turkey. Other experts suggest they might have come from India and were Caucasian in origin. And they were actually established in southern Babylonia, so what is now known as Iraq, by at least 3500 BC. And like we said, they were located in what the ancient Greeks called Mesopotamia, meaning the land between the rivers. And Sumeria was a collection of city-states or cities that were also independent nations, some of which endured for 3,000 years. So they not only were like the first modern civilization, but they literally had their own like countries or states, as we would call them, within it, which is pretty cool, with their own sort of central building, sort of like, you know, a town center.
Yeah, so it was like
so
a
they
country.
had like a real, it was like a real country or city or state, you know. And beginning around 3500 BC, the Sumerians began to build walled cities, including the city of Ur, which was the capital of the civilization. It's literally spelled U-R, Ur. I think that's how you would pronounce
when
that.
People are texting and they use Ur, they have no idea they're
Ur. Yeah.
they're like
talking about a Sumerian city.
Capital.
That's really funny, actually. So each of these Sumerian cities contained public buildings, markets, workshops, and advanced water systems, and were surrounded by villages and land for agriculture. They literally knew, like, they somehow had the skills and knowledge to not only build these like little states, these little individual little countries in their own area, which was Sumeria, but they also knew how to create the first sewer systems. That was one thing about their civilization.
Wow.
They had a sewer system.
Wow.
There's literally like cities in like, I think like the early 1900s
if you
even
like
that didn't
made
have
that a trivia question, like yes or true or false, did the first ever recorded civilization have a sewer system? Everyone would say false. That's
There's
amazing.
evidence to suggest that they had a sewer system in all of their cities.
Wow.
Where they would run their waste to a central location. I think it might even been used because they also created the first like irrigation and seed sowing like techniques and tools. So they were the first to actually irrigate their fields and stuff. So they clearly had to know some sort of like basic level of mathematics and like physics, for that matter, of like, how do we get like the sewage to like flow, you know, and flow out of our areas that we want?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And they knew how to irrigate the field so that they could water it evenly and stuff. How would you know that? Like, especially 7,000 years ago? Like, what?
Yeah, that's the thing, is
like,
7,000
that's what's
years
so
ago.
crazy about it, is how
we need to remember how old this is.
Yeah.
Like, that's so crazy, though.
This is the beginning of time. This is like at the beginning of
But like, we're
modern
literally
time.
told in school that basically everyone was like kind of dumb before us. Like before the last couple hundred years, everyone was like just like doing weird
I know
rituals and like running
Everybody
around
was just
and
kind of
carving
like
shit.
tripping out constantly. Like that's the way they describe it. Like it was like
and just struggling and confused and trying to figure
barely
out,
getting by, barely
fighting.
getting the food they need, barely surviving. I mean, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that people not only like these civilizations lived a long time and survived a long time because people lived way longer back then. People lived way, way longer. Yeah.
Wait, where's your evidence for this?
There is, dude. There's evidence. There is evidence that there's some evidence that people lived hundreds of years.
Now.
No, we're getting way
What
younger.
if we're being told that and like we're all dying because of something and they're not?
That's what I'm saying. We're being poisoned.
Oh, conspiracy time.
Well, that's the thing, is like a lot has changed on the planet from thousands of years ago, but
what if we're dying because of like pesticides and shit and like pollution and all these things? We're dying young.
Our bodies are wearing out far.
But then like we have evidence that we're also have like gotten older.
But in comparison to like the last like 100 or 200 years, not thousands of years.
There's a lot of disease.
So here, we'll talk a little bit more about it later because it becomes more relevant later. But I just thought I would plant that seed there because
plant it.
It's planted.
All right.
So what's cool is that they basically had their own little city set up, and the political power was divided between those city-states. So originally, I think the political power is with the citizens of Sumeria. But as rivalry between the various city-states, they would fight each other like all the time. So they would still war between each other. Yep. Yeah. They would still war with each other over resources and stuff. So they weren't totally like, and that's how Egypt was too. They would go and do stuff. So that's been around since the beginning because there was some other war at some point too.
Oh, sorry.
But essentially each city-state believed to be under the rule of a local god or goddess, and their temples dominated the town's architecture, and they built these things called ziggurats. And the most famous temple is the ziggurat of and here's a picture of it, and it's huge, and I would love to see it someday because it looks crazy that this was built thousands of years ago, and they were able to build this. The architecture is pretty astounding,
and
honestly.
Where exactly is it?
It's in Iraq, I believe, or in that region, the Middle East, Mesopotamia area. It was 3-storied, 49 feet high building constructed from mud bricks in the form of pyramidal graduated terraces, and it formed complex of temples, including the royal palace. On top of the structure was a shrine dedicated to the god of that city. So imagine this, and this is thousands of years later. This is what it looks like. Imagine what it looked like then. It must have been this gleaming, beautiful temple. Like
I'm sure it was layered in a different material.
If this was where their god was, and that's where they worshipped it, you better bet your ass that shit was good fucking lit. I was lit. Temple,
totally
the
lit.
ziggurat of was lit, dude. It was literally lit in every sense of the word. So, and this is kind of so some people are like, well, didn't they build pyramids? They didn't, as far as we know, they didn't build actual like Egyptian pyramids, but they all have, if you all draw imaginary lines and look at the angles of them, they all create
have a slant type
these
triangle
pyramidal surfaces or angles. So
it's really sad that this obviously isn't that popular of a destination for people to visit.
Yeah, because nobody knows it. Yeah,
that's like, that should be on people's bucket list before the pyramids.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the pyramids are awesome too, but like, it's crazy that this is sad. Like, I feel like the Sumerians would be like, what the fuck, bro? None of you guys are interested in seeing our shit. We were the first ones.
Right, and everybody's
we did all
obsessed
this stuff.
with
And once you hear the rest of like what they did, we're about to get into developments and inventions, you will be shook because they like, wow, were so much more advanced than you would think.
Again, remember, this is the first advanced civilization as far as we know. So we have no clue how the hell they knew this information or how to do this. If you think about it, how? Fucking how? And all right, let's get into it. So what are the Sumerians known for? What are some of their inventions and some of the major developments that they created? And they took this shit very, very seriously. And they did. They clearly did, because they were clearly intelligent enough to figure out, hey, they were already asking those questions of like, what is this? What's this? Does this have meaning? What is there something else going on here? Because here's just a few things that they are responsible for: establishing codes of law, the wheel, the plow, the sailboat, and perhaps most importantly, the way our system of time works, and the lunar calendar. They came up with the lunar calendar, which means they knew the lunar phases. So
that's confusing.
Huh?
The wheel thing. I thought like in early Egypt they didn't have the wheel yet, or
no.
We were taught that they don't have the wheel yet.
I'm pretty sure they had the wheel. The wheel was invented before Egypt.
Oh.
Yeah. But it even states that the wheel was not used in carrying heavy loads because the wheels weren't strong enough to hold.
Right.
You couldn't. So that's the thing. So people will be like, well, they had wheels in Egypt so they could wheel it.
But they couldn't hold.
It wouldn't
they didn't
work.
Have like huge
They didn't have
wheels.
axles. They didn't have shocks.
They weren't manufacturing a wheel.
They were carved out of wood, dude. That shit would break with like 50 pounds on it.
And those things are what? 4 tons or something?
Yeah. The blocks were
2.5 to 4 tons.
Yeah.
I remember. Wow.
So they used sleds, and even the Sumerians used sleds because clearly they had to figure out a way to move those heavy materials in order to build these monoliths and temples and everything else. But the fact that they were like, okay, wheel doesn't work. it's too heavy. So what do? We make like a sled, basically.
Yeah, I mean, everyone just like wants to say they were just a bunch of dipshits, and how did they figure this out?
No, these guys were.
Like, we are so taught wrong about how smart they are.
Extremely.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, no, I know. You're exactly right. So they came up with the first system of law, and this is hotly debated by Bible people that believe in the Bible, because they came up with the Code of Ur-Nammu, which is the first Sumerian form of law. It's the oldest surviving law in the world, actually.
Damn.
And the copy of
shit on lock.
Seriously, dude. They were like, they clearly understood what is required in order to run a successful civilization. Because you need order, you need law.
They had contracts too. Right?
Yeah, they had
for trading.
Yep.
It's amazing.
They knew about contracts. Yeah, it's the
They're
earliest.
We ain't about to get screwed.
So like, you are not gonna sue people unfairly. They don't. Yeah. So it's the early.
lunar calendar is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. How the hell they knew that? All right, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the law real quick. So here are some of the rules of their Code of Ur-Nammu. One of their laws is if a man commits a murder, that man must be killed.
Okay.
Kind of can agree with that.
Fucking fair enough.
I mean, you kill somebody, you get killed. That's just the way it is. 2, if a man commits a robbery, he will be killed. Okay, that's a little
much.
But back then, no bullshit. So
yeah, no bullshit back then.
If a man commits a kidnapping, he is to be imprisoned and pay 15 shekels of silver.
That's it. That's
for kidnapping.
Damn. Why robbery get killed, but kidnapping, it's like whatever. Just go in there a little bit, and give us some silver.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah. If a slave marries a slave and that slave is set free, he does not leave the household.
Who's the slave? They had slaves?
I guess.
Who were their slaves? Just like poorer people in the community?
I think they're just talking about,
like less poor people?
Yeah, I
mean, less wealthy. Interesting.
Yeah. If a man violates the right of another and deflowers the virgin wife of a young man, they shall kill that male.
Wait, what? Wait, if a slave marries a native person, hand the firstborn over to the owner. So a free person. So there's native people and they had slaves. So maybe they got slaves from elsewhere, somewhere else.
They had to, yeah.
And then,
which would make sense. Okay.
So you have to give. So if a slave, if I was your slave and I had a baby with someone in your family, I'd have to give my baby back to you.
Yeah.
That's
to become
weird.
To become another slave, I assume. To become a slave.
No, they want it because it's their blood, so it has half native blood and half slave blood.
Gotcha.
So they must give it over.
Gotcha. So basically, if you're an adulterer, they kill you. If a man proceeded by force and deflowered the virgin slave woman of another man, that man must pay 5 shekels of silver. If a man divorces his first-time wife, he shall pay her 1 mina of silver.
You only get a little bit, bitch.
You get a couple pennies.
God, not much has changed. His first time. It's like, your first try. It's like, yeah, let it slide.
Okay, so those are just some of the laws. Those are some of the laws of the Code of Ur-Nammu, the earliest legal text that they used. Now, this is perhaps one of the most interesting and exciting things about the Sumerians is their clear advanced knowledge of astrology and just astronomy in general, and obviously creating the lunar calendar based upon the moon phases. That's pretty incredible.
And they also definitely had an understanding for the balance of the universe and how the solar system communicates kind of with our planet and how it all connects.
Absolutely.
They understood that. Which is all astrology is. People always think I'm so such a voodoo person for believing in astrology. It's the oldest civilizations believed in it, and it makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at it past just horoscopes. There's entire time periods based off astrology. It's very, very interesting.
It is. It's truly amazing, honestly. I was a skeptic. I know tons of people that were skeptics about it, and then really dived into it and tried to learn about it. You're like, whoa, this is way more accurate than I ever thought.
Yeah.
especially when you see your whole birth chart and kind of understanding how it all works together. And it's like, whoa, maybe there is something to be said about these giant masses in space that we are connected to in essence. And
I've always explained it to people like that. Obviously, for example, like the moon affects us. It affects women's periods, menstrual cycles. It affects our tides. Like the sun gives us energy. Like we are very in tune with our planets more than we. And I know those aren't planets, but to them they were considered planets. In astrology, they are planets. So it's just understanding like just the effect that this giant body of energy has on us living here on this planet.
Right. No, I know. It's like, it's so crazy. And I've heard things like maybe the moon was here before the earth was here. And
definitely could be.
And obviously the moon is a very important piece to life on this planet. So, maybe there's a lot more to it. And I think there is. And I think there's something more to all the moons of all the planets.
I think there's a lot more to space in general than people think. These just rocks floating around in the middle of nowhere, like
doing nothing, having no.
There's more purpose to our setup than we realize, because it all is truly so amazing how it all orbits and works together and how gravity works. I mean,
and there's something like there is some order to the universe, because if there wasn't, then why wouldn't these like planets and moons and asteroids, all this shit flying through space, just erratically like fly into each other and like blow up, or
exactly.
Like constantly
there's something
collide.
divine about our universe.
There's something
spiritual about it in a way, and I think that's what they really understood, and it seemed like a lot of ancient cultures understood that and passed it on. And that's why I fell in love in astrology when I like learned all that.
Yes So it's absolutely mind-boggling to everyone, the fact that the Sumerians were literally the first astronomers who mapped the stars, and they were the first to form different constellations, which were later observed by the ancient Greeks as well. And not only that, but they knew about the 5 planets that were visible to them via the naked eye. So, because that's the thing, is like, how did they know about all this with no telescope? Like, how do you know? Well, they were, I still don't know, just looking up at the night sky at first, how you would ever know that just because that star's like super bright that you would know that that's a planet, How would you know that? Like,
because it's not blinking. Stars blink.
But how would they know the difference between a star and a planet?
Well, they wouldn't have. I'm saying how you know nowadays.
Well, yeah.
I thought you were asking how to know.
I know now.
Okay,
I know now.
Good. I'm glad you know that, Josh. How do I know?
Well, I look like some kind of fool.
I have to like whip out my little Skyview app to figure out what planets are and stuff.
That's the thing, is even
like
now.
Find Venus. Seemed like I can only find
But
Venus,
they knew there was 5 planets that they could see.
And they knew like roughly how big they were and like how far apart they were. They like mapped out our solar system. Yeah,
they developed a rudimentary cluster of constellations and also noted the movements of Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and Mercury. They knew how they actually moved, how they orbited in the sky.
So it's like, think about how profound that is. We're told that they were just running around.
Many people talk about like Copernicus, right? Like
Copernicus?
Yeah, the first person to like see this, in Galileo and stuff. As far as like discovering the constellations. So.
Well, yeah, Copernicus.
Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off. That was
it's fine. Sorry. Hey, we're married. We're gonna cut each other off.
Yeah. Hey,
you guys better get.
What do you expect from us? We're just
Copernicus. Slow down.
Sorry.
Motherfucking Copernicus. He is the one who said that the planets revolve around the sun.
Right.
So they knew that already, the Sumerians, because they have clear. We'll get to this, but there is evidence that they knew that the sun was the center of the universe. So they already did know what Copernicus knew, right? Am I right?
Correct. Right again. No, you're absolutely right.
I was saying something.
Now I got you lost.
No, you got to think about, like, for them, how profound it is that they knew this kind of stuff, because we're told that they were just, evolved from basically cavemen. They're just running around trying to... Why on earth would they ever know what a planet is or what is out in space? There's no way they would have just looked up at the sky and figured that out. Like, why wouldn't they have figured out some other crazy story or something else to be beyond our planet? Or for all they know, like, it could have been flat. The fact that they didn't think the Earth was flat, they clearly knew the Earth was a planet and was round. So, like, I'm sorry, but they did not just, like, figure this out, right? I mean, we're being told like some bullshit about what they knew.
So here's the academic version. As far as I know, I could be wrong, but the academic version goes like this. There's the Big Bang, is how everything started. And then life just evolves and comes together and starts on Earth. And essentially, over millions of years,
like worms turn into...
we evolve into eventually monkeys, and then monkeys and apes, and eventually into man. And then man eventually gets to this point where one day they're like, oh yeah, that's Venus.
So wait, they really want us to believe we just came from flatworms?
That's
like
the thing.
Just like some dirt? That was just some fucking like fungus? Like we're pretty smart. I feel like we're capable of doing pretty amazing things. And I feel like in 100 years from now, that's almost going to be laughable. Because we're going to be so advanced. I don't know.
Well, that's the thing about this is that, and that's why I think it's been sort of censored in a way, is because this completely like changes the, official academic version of events. It completely goes against everything that they've said is the timeline for history since the Big Bang.
Right.
And they don't want to be wrong or change it. They want to keep it the way that's been for years now.
Yeah, for reasons we don't even know.
Right. There could be some crazy underlying
obviously
thing.
They don't want us to know that we could have came from space. I mean, we haven't even gotten there yet, but like... Or
just gods in general, or even a god or gods or deities or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Beings, whatever you want to call them.
Aliens.
If they were in fact. Yeah, exactly. So maybe there's a reason, and I think there is a reason that this is being suppressed. And the reason we don't know more than we do about the Sumerians is because of this very reason, that they can't explain it. Like, how do you explain it? How do you explain that instant, like, boom, evolution just overload, and they're able to like come up with all this information?
And then the Rh negative blood throws a whole curveball in it too, because they cannot track that back to chimps. They just can't do it.
Yeah.
Or apes or whatever. People always are like, it's technically a this, and I'm like, fucking chill, okay? It's a monkey still. It's all monkeys.
Yeah, it's really quite amazing, and that's what is so trippy about them, is like all signs point to some aid, assistance from something, and we will talk more about what those somethings are here shortly.
I mean, if you didn't already hear the bullshit version that you heard in school or from your parents or whatever, and you just were open to just think freely and come up with your own idea, I think it would align more with like we came from space, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
That seems more, once you get it in your head, it seems like more likely or more natural than just like kind of popping up. Like, I feel like we definitely came from somewhere.
It's very hard to believe, especially if you have any sort of like spiritual side to you, to believe that we somehow evolved from a microorganism or something,
Yeah.
Like
a bug, literally like a bug.
And in the time that passed, we went from this tiny microorganism to this extremely advanced being.
Yeah.
That can even sit here and ponder this and talk about this. Like,
I know.
It's like what? On.
My great granddaddy's a fucking flatworm.
Come on, mate. Come on. All right, okay. Come on. Seriously, it's very trippy.
It is. That's why I love doing podcasts on this kind of stuff.
Me too, because it stretches your mind. But so they use astrological symbols to foresee the future battles and positions of city-states, actually. And that was the thing. And that's what's so interesting about their writing, which we'll talk about here after this. But they actually said that their month began with the sunset and the first crescent visibility of the new moon. It was seen for 18 hours after the 36 hours when the old crescent disappeared. The crescent was the thinnest of all its forms. They were the first ones to form a lunar calendar. Phases of the moons were used to count the 12 months. Sumerians had 2 seasons in their Sumerian year. First was the summer, which started with the vernal equinox, and the other was winter, which began with the autumnal equinox. So that was the thing that's so crazy, is they knew the precession of the equinoxes, which is crazy. And they knew that for the whole, I believe for the whole precession, it's like 25,000 years or something. They knew that. And that's crazy. And it's crazy
we still fucking use it.
Right. That's the thing, is they found stuff that we rely on and use. And
wow,
some white guy's getting credit for this shit. It's like, for a lot of it though, like a lot of they like switch it around. Like, all right, we give the credit to this guy, even though this ancient civilization holds the answers. Sacred marriage ceremonies were performed on the day of New Year's Day. And by adding an extra month after 4 years to every year, they differentiated between the year of seasons from the regular year. The day consisted of 12 hours as it started and ended with the sunset. So they completely formulated the calendar that we still use today. And that's why on calendars, they usually tell you like what moon phase is on and stuff. It's basically a lunar calendar.
Yeah, no, it is.
To this day, that's what it is. If you look,
that's what we're following. Right. A lunar calendar.
Yeah. It's wild, huh?
Astrology is so fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, it's just such bullshit.
No, it's so true though. Like the new moon is like a time where you're supposed to feel like invigorated and motivated and have new ideas and new project opportunities will come up. And I totally experienced that this last new moon. Like I'm definitely feeling the new moon energy, feeling like motivated and creative, and it's just amazing to me.
And isn't like full moon a great time to make babies? Like
that's like a time that a lot of people give birth.
Oh,
like recently they had like, what was it? I thought we talked about it on the podcast, like 2 days, like 40 women gave birth in like the same hospital in like 2 days.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it was right over the full moon.
Wow.
And like
maybe there's something to that.
You ask almost any nurse, any of you that are nurses out there or in the medical field or in any type of job where police work or even being teachers, you probably have more like misbehavior, but there's supposed to be just like crazy shit happening during the full moon. And like nurses always say that the craziest injuries come in on the full moon. Like the trauma unit is just like a mess.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Like all this nutty stuff happens.
So it really does.
It really does.
Maybe there's like literally some sort of like connection we all have with it.
It does. No, it's our emotion. Yeah. So it kind of like when it's big and it makes us a little wiggy.
Dude, we are so connected.
We are
into this universe. It's
when
crazy.
People say the universe is us, we are one with the universe.
Is.
We
really
literally are to the point where we are
the sun. Just think about what the sun does for us. Without the sun, we all are dead.
The fact that we can draw energy from the sun, like, you know, Josh and I have these little lights all around our backyard, and they use a little solar power thing, and it's just amazing. Like this tiny little light is getting this shit from the
dude. It's amazing that we could literally power the whole U.S. with barely any of the sun's. Like the sun provides all the energy we need. It's our home star.
Yeah,
it's our home star. We just got to figure out how to build a fucking Dyson sphere around it so we can fucking harness.
Okay, we're not getting into Dyson spheres right now because that's a whole nother fucking trip.
But it's crazy.
Here we go. Keep going. Let's go.
All right.
To divert, we need to retrack. What is it?
Retrace our steps.
Okay.
All right. So the Sumerians also fucking invented the numeral system in the 3rd millennium.
Yeah.
Known as the sexagesimal.
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 Sexagesimal? All right, we're not.
It is named so because it has the number 60 as its base. They developed a numerical system based on the number 60 in which numbers could be counted on 5 fingers on one hand and 12 knuckles on the other.
What? 12? Oh, fuck. We do have 12 knuckles. I didn't even realize that. Damn, why did they do that?
Everybody's counting their hand. We're like,
wait, we have more than that, though? Is this considered a knuckle?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Groundbreaking content brought to you by Mile Higher Podcast. You have 12 knuckles.
I don't know. I have to recount that. Huh.
Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
5 fingers on one hand.
Okay, this is not right then.
No, that is not right.
Wait, 12 knuckles.
Wait, where does 12 knuckles come from? I might have typoed that, guys. It might be not 12. But I believe it is because they had an extra finger. No,
8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
What?
Wait, what? There's like 14.
Everybody's trying to count how many knuckles he had.
Well, just ignore that whole part. Anyway, that's not even anything we use today.
But basically, the number 60 can be divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, and 30 equal parts. So ancient astronomers believe there were 360 or so days in a year, and a number which the number 60 fits into it 6 times. So that is how they came up with the 60, which is what we use for our minutes and seconds to this day. Came from the Sumerians. They actually discovered this. And they actually developed mathematics out of the need for bureaucracies that they had at the time. And they started to trade their harvests and invented taxation policies. So there was obviously an urgent need to track this trading that they did. Because that was the thing about them, is that they were huge traders. They had a huge trade route that went really, really far, and they traded goods all across the land at that point in time. So they had to have some sort of numerical system to keep track of that. So they literally came up with the symbols and the numeral system, including the it being based on the number 60. That's real. That's the knuckles crazy. Thing, I think I'm not sure about the knuckles thing.
Yeah, I was just Googling it. People don't even know that. I found a forum with like people debating on how many knuckles we have. Like apparently
well,
it's not
let us
even,
know
like,
if you have 12
stone.
Knuckles, and maybe
some people said 8, 10. Someone said 48. I think 48? That was just like a troll though.
I thought I had 18 for a second.
I'm like, I feel really dumb for not knowing this. I feel like someone's gonna go off in the comments and be like, Kendall and Josh don't even know how many knuckles we Go ahead, rip us for the knuckles.
Well, apparently somebody else didn't know either, so. All right, so another thing they invented was the sailboat. And they did this in order to expand their trade affairs. So they could sail to other parts of the land at the time. And they used wooden.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. Like 7,000 years ago, they were sailboating.
They like doing different types of metals that they needed, and yeah, I bet. Trading was so much more important back then and like necessary.
Right.
You know.
No, it was absolutely essential to their just getting the things they need in their economy and their systems that they set up.
So if they were really considered the first, and they were already like traveling and communicating with other civilizations, then who the hell were they? Over time. That's the thing. Is like. Again, that's the thing about it. And some people hotly debate that, like, because like some of the timelines overlap. So like the Sumerians kind of overlap, I think, with the Egyptians, and things are very close to each other as far as times that other civilizations were around. Mm-hmm. But they were just here, we think, at earlier than anybody else was, is what we're saying. Mm-hmm. And again, we don't know that for sure because nobody can possibly know that unless you were there. Or we had some concrete proof somewhere, which there might be. Yeah. So, yeah, they were able to craft sails, and they actually made them a square shape and used linen. So they knew how to spin linen, I guess, if that's the right word, spin it and make sails, linen sails. Linen spinning.
Linen spinning.
I'm just spinning some linen.
So they used the sailboats for trade, probably for leisure, but they also used it for battles. And this went on for years, and eventually other civilizations used this form of sea battle using the sailboats that they invented. Not only that, but they invented the wheel. The wheel, we think, was invented in Sumeria at this time, 3500 BC, which they would first just use logs of wood as wheels to carry heavy objects, but then they joined these logs and rolled them, making it easier for the movement of hefty stuff. And then later on, they invented the sledge so that they can move objects farther, like we talked about earlier. They were also big into the fabrication of copper. Copper was the earliest non-precious metal that came to use by the Sumerians. Somewhere in 5000 BC, they developed the skill of fabricating copper. And the kickstart of this process is one of the greatest inventions in Mesopotamia, which has also helped in the growth of various cities like Uruk, Sumer, Al-Ubaid, and Ur. And they put the copper to use and made heads of arrows, razors, harpoons, and other little objects. This also allowed them to create copper spears, swords, maces, slings, and clubs, which was the pioneers of their weaponry. So they already knew, like, that's, I think many of us believe that kind of skill, especially with like developing copper weapon stuff, came way later in history. I think a lot of us think that they were using just like sticks for a long time. But some other things that they were noted for creating were maps. They created maps because they had to have all these advanced trade routes across the various different countries at that time. And so they were the first ones to create maps. They created jewelry and makeup, which is interesting. They had makeup and jewelry prior to the Egyptians.
All these beauty gurus should be thanking the Sumerians. Kylie Jenner can thank her almost billion dollar fortune
worth.
Yeah, did you guys, this is a side note, but did you guys know that like fans of hers started a GoFundMe for her to get to $1 billion? What the fuck is our world coming to? 900 million isn't enough?
Makes no sense.
It's really bad. Anyway, they also created beer.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of different recipes.
Yeah,
Sumerian beer.
They had Sumerian beer on like, it was written on their tablets.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I have a question. How come like, since all these ancient civilizations literally carve their life, carve their recipes, carve the important shit into like stone, why aren't we doing that? Because they clearly did that to protect it and to like they were thinking so far ahead. They like knew that there was going to be future people that won't know what they were doing.
Right.
Why aren't we doing that?
Right.
I guess maybe we're like storing it on like hard drives, like all our information, and putting it in a bomb-proof situation. Like there's probably somewhere that has it. So like we're doing it in a modern way, but this was their way of doing it.
Right. Exactly. Well, you got to think about at the time, like what is going to be best for thousands of years in the future.
Yeah.
And for us, thinking about thousands of years in the future, it's going to be electronic. Like it's going to be some sort of...
If we make it that far.
If we make it. But no, they were smart to record it in such a like permanent way.
Yeah.
That could be...
It seemed like every ancient culture tried to like preserve their stuff.
That is still like legible and translatable like thousands of years later. It's pretty amazing.
Or I guess there could have been ones that didn't do such a hot job and we don't even know about them.
Yeah. But what's noticeable about this is that they had all of these different things or created all these things that indicate that they like to party. Like they like to get down and enjoy life and enjoy the arts.
Instruments, 23 different
instruments that they created.
That's cool. So they totally had community events and...
Totally. They were drinking beer. They were probably getting drunk. There was probably sex. There's probably like music playing. It was probably like, you know, some Jersey Shore shit going on. Like
they're like fist bumping.
Yeah, they're like, Sumerians like, yeah.
Dude, oh my God. I wonder
they had schools. They created the first schools. They were like, all right, we got to teach these people. We got to pass on this knowledge. They realized
that that's how you grow the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So cool.
And they literally came up with the first written, basically first writings ever.
Yeah.
In the cuneiform system of writing. I've heard it pronounced different ways, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced cuneiform. Okay. I've looked it up. Trust me. I've done how do you pronounce cuneiform? And they said cuneiform.
Are you sure? Should I bring up a YouTube
It's video? Not cuneiform. It's cuneiform.
Cuneiform.
No, it's cuneiform. I think it's cuneiform.
Okay. Who cares? Anyway.
But the Sumerian civilization recorded their knowledge in this language known as cuneiform, which consists of narrow triangular shaped lines arranged in various patterns. And the Sumerian alphabet contained pictograms, which are symbols that conveyed ideas and concepts in a way similar to Oriental languages in the way that they do it.
So it was a mix of text and
yeah, there's like kind of a picture you can see below it. But
so it's kind of like emojis.
Right, exactly. It was like, yeah, it's exactly
like text
like that.
With emojis.
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
That's exactly what it was. And this differed from phonetic values that were strung together to form words like English. And writings were engraved on wet clay tablets, which were baked and preserved. And they preserved really well.
Yeah. Well, makes sense.
And it's been estimated that roughly around 500,000 of these clay tablets have been discovered, highlighting the breadth of knowledge the civilization possessed and the lengths to which they attempted to preserve it. So it sounds like they literally wrote down everything. I mean, if they have thousands of these clay tablets that they wrote on and wrote all these messages down, I mean, the amount of things that we probably would know about them if we were able to decipher and translate all of these different cuneiform tablets would probably be just mind-blowing, like what we'd find on them.
Yeah, and it seems like no one's really doing that. Yeah, so no one has looked at it in
a long time.
Yeah,
a while.
Over 100 years, it says here.
No, not cuneiform in general. I mean, people look at it all the time, but
no, but the tablets.
Yeah. So.
Oh, sorry, am I jumping ahead?
You're jumping ahead.
Sorry, Josh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, guys. Oh, no. Uh-oh. I went ahead.
No, it's fine.
I feel like I have to keep all the juicy shit in my head because you might have it later in the outline.
So this cuneiform form of writing would influence the style of the scripts in the region for the next 3,000 years. It was used by many different cultures, and it evolved into hieroglyphics that the Egyptians used. They used a similar type of picture with symbols and things like that. Yeah. So the first cuneiform clay tablet was recovered in the late 19th century from an underground library of King Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, Iraq, by Sir Henry Layard. And this tablet has puzzled scientists for over 100 years. Mm-hmm. And according to scholars, this incredible yet controversial tablet indicates that ancient Sumerians observed the impact of an Aten type asteroid over 5,000 years ago. The Aten asteroids were a group of near-Earth asteroid resonant with the Earth's orbit. And more precisely, this tablet is believed to be a copy of a set of notes made by a Sumerian astronomer that observed the skies, referring to the asteroid as a white stone bowl approaching. Researchers now believe that the size and route of the asteroid tracked by the star map are consistent with the asteroid that crashed into the Austrian Alps of Kofels, creating a cataclysmic impact, killing anyone in its path with the force equivalent to more than 1,000 tons of TNT exploding. So if that translation is in fact correct, then that's fucking crazy. That they literally observed a huge asteroid hit the planet 5,000 years ago.
Didn't they think that it like changed the shape of our planet? Like that after the asteroid, the planet was really different? Or at least like the land masses were different?
I think it could have something to do with it.
I was reading about that today, that's what the tablet was saying.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it's possible that it could have had I think it may have had an impact on where, sort of the continents ended up and stuff. So, yeah. So the fact that they observed this and wrote down this detailed of events is pretty astonishing. So again, it makes me go back to the rest of the tablets and think, holy shit, what could possibly be on all these tablets that have yet to be deciphered?
Yeah.
If these are the types of events they are like recording, so there's a very good possibility they wrote down exactly how life began for them or where they came from. That's the thing. We don't know where they came from. Like, who are they?
Yeah.
What are they?
Who exactly. Are you?
So it's very interesting. And before we get into more of the ancient Sumerian texts, I just wanted to quickly thank the sponsor of this podcast episode, Skillshare, for sponsoring us. Skillshare is an online learning community with more than 20,000 classes in design, photo, and more. There's tons of categories. There's technology, there's photography, there's all sorts of stuff on there.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. They have gardening.
Yes, there's all sorts of stuff.
Cool. House plants.
On useful stuff that everybody could find, interesting or wants to know about something.
Yeah, super cool. I'm going to use this.
Yes. So premium premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. Skillshare believes in accessible learning, and the price reflects that. An annual subscription with unlimited access is less than $10 a month, making it one of the best deals you can find for online education.
And there's so many things on there.
Yes, and since Skillshare is sponsoring this video, the first 500 people to use the promo link in the description will get their first 2 months free to try it out. Risk-free.
That is generous.
Yeah, I personally checked out and loved the Introduction to Aerial Videography Creative Direction for Drone Filming class.
Dude, you need that.
You need that, bro.
I'm still learning how to use the drone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's stuff like that. There's stuff like on how to build an Etsy shop. So if you're a crafty kind of person,
I bet
there's a way to set up that.
There's really good cooking stuff too.
So yeah, the first 500 people to sign up will receive the 2-month free trial. All you have to do is go to https://skl.sh/milehire2
to start your trial now. Legit use that soon to help me start a garden. But I'm is it too late in the summer? I don't know. Maybe they can tell me.
Yeah, no. So lots of cool stuff to learn on there. So thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's episode.
Yes.
All right. So this is perhaps the most interesting part about the Sumerians, and that is the origin of humans. Where the hell did we come from? What was the beginning like? How did everything come to be? And the Sumerians seem to have a lot of information about that. So, what we found on an ancient clay tablet, which was discovered in Nippur, is an ancient Mesopotamian city created around 5000 BC. We find the ancient Sumerian creation story called the Eridu Genesis. And according to the clay tablet, the creation of our planet began in the following way. And this is directly from this Eridu Genesis. When in the height heaven was not named, and the earth beneath did not yet bear a name, and the primeval Apsu, who begat them, and Chaos, Tiamat, the mother of them both, their waters were mingled together, and no field was formed, no marsh was to be seen. When of the gods none had been called into being, and none bore a name, and no destinies were ordained. Then were created the gods in the midst of heaven. Lamu and Laamu were called into being. So that's very confusing. But we will break it down for you. So basically the creation tablets state that our solar system was just starting to form and the planets had not become solid yet. So this is like going way back. This is like to the beginning. And an intruder planet appeared and fell under gravitational influence by the outer planets. It passed by Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. The intruder planet began to travel towards the inner part of our solar system. Our primitive planet Earth was labeled by the Sumerians as Tiamat. Tiamat, I think that's how you say it.
We live in Tiamat.
Tiamat, yeah. Tiamat. And they explained that as the intruder planet passed through the inner part of the solar system, one of the large moons of this intruder planet collided into our primitive Earth, Tiamat. And the collision cracked essentially Earth in half, spewing out debris into the pattern we now see today as the asteroid belt. The Bible calls this the hammered out bracelet. And after the collision, Tiamat was thrust into a new orbit, and the waters of Nibiru intermingled with the waters of the Earth, and life began to arise already whole and complete, which another term for this is panspermia. So
we've talked about that before. A lot of you guys probably recognize that from
which
talks.
Which I've heard this too before, that before there was this collision, Earth was essentially a super Earth. It was much, much bigger than it is now. It was like
that's
way,
what I
way
was
bigger.
trying to say, that the shape changed before the collision.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you just said you don't know if that is true.
Well, I wasn't connecting the dots to
on
this.
what I was saying. Okay. Well, I was right, wasn't I?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
So it was this giant super Earth, and it seems as when it collided, it broke off into a smaller version of what is Earth today, and the rest of it is floating around in the asteroid belt, possibly.
That makes sense. So how did it just like jump back up into a circle? You know? Was that a dumb question? I feel like that was stupid.
You're asking me. I don't know.
But like if it was a big circle and it was hit by something,
I mean, logically it doesn't make sense, because it's like, how does it end up in a perfect sphere? But for all we know, the Earth may not be a perfect sphere. I don't know.
A perfect sphere?
Sphere.
Sphere? I guess it may not be. Wait, I thought it was though.
I think it is, but
I'm gonna Google it.
This is a creation tale, so just go with it.
Okay.
So basically, this planet Nibiru passed off life to Earth via what we call panspermia.
NASA has a straight up page called "What is Earth?"
It's the most highly searched page on their planet. It's our home planet. On their
No way! I had no idea I was on the Earth.
I'm from Mars, bitch. What are you talking about? So the Sumerian creation tales explain some of the very key aspects to our modern understanding of cosmology and possibly how life on Earth began. And for life to have naturally evolved here on Earth, it would have taken billions of years longer than the recorded history of Earth. The biological process of a living creature to take in nutrients and expel waste is extremely complex genetics. And the idea that somehow life evolved on Earth from primordial soup and a bolt of lightning is just not accepted anymore. We don't buy that evolution shit.
Okay, the Earth is not perfectly sphered. Just to let y'all
yeah,
know.
so there's a possibility that
it's kind of, they describe it as a slightly squashed, flattened sphere.
So there is a possibility that it is like that, you know, and maybe that's just how it went down. Like maybe it just fucking split a sphere into another sphere. Maybe that's how it works.
Obviously, we're not a perfect sphere because how would we have the wobble and stuff, right?
Right.
My non-science monkey brain cannot handle this.
Yeah, we're not experts over here, guys. Okay.
We're like, yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, moving on.
Oh, sometimes you just got to sit back and just go, you know what? I don't know anything. I literally don't know.
Dude,
shit.
does anyone really know anything?
We don't know.
Come on. No one really knows what the hell's up. We
Seriously.
don't even know the point of life, so everyone needs to settle
Anybody
down.
that's like, this is how it was. This is how it's going to be.
People are very attached to like knowing exactly what things are. You know?
So, according to Sumerian mythology, in the beginning of time, humanoid gods ruled over a planet. When the gods came down from the heavens, much needed to be done on the planet, and they literally terraformed the earth in order to make it habitable while they mined its minerals from the soil. Again, according to the creation story, Anu, the main god of the ancient Sumerians, saw that the labor on earth was too great. The son of Anu, Enki, proposed to create a species that would inhabit the planet and bear the labor, and so the gods created man. One of the ancient Sumerian gods was put to death, and they mixed his blood with the clay from earth. Out of this material, the first human was created in the likeness of the gods.
Interesting that it's about mixing blood, though.
Mm-hmm. This is a translation of it. This is just one translation of the Sumerian text. Because that's the thing about it, guys. Is like there's only a handful of people in history that claim to have the ability to translate this ancient text. So, you know.
Yeah, and it hasn't, I don't think anyone's translated them or had a second look at them in like 100 years, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with the way that we look at the Bible. Like, the Bible's the same kind of thing, except it's been translated and it's gotten to its current form. But think about how many times the Bible's been translated since thousands of years ago. It's probably been changed and made to make more sense to us today. Because, like, when you read some of, like, the actual text for itself from, like, the Sumerians, like, you have slaughtered a god together with his personality. I have removed your heavy work. I have imposed your toil on man. In the clay, God and man shall be bound to a unity brought together, so that to the end of days, the flesh and the soul, which in a god have ripened, that soul in a blood kinship be bound. Like, that's so, like, clearly ancient text. Like that's just not the way that we would phrase anything today.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense to us. So this is like, so somebody has to interpret it that's what they're reading off of the tablets. And then they got to be like, well, fuck, how do we make sense of this? So then this is kind of what people are, you know, getting out of that Sumerian text, is this story of Anu and Enki. So the first human was created in Eden. Eden is mentioned in the epic of Gilgamesh as the garden of the gods and was supposedly located somewhere between the Tigris and Euphrates River in ancient Mesopotamia. Eden is an ancient Sumerian word which means flat terrain. What is extremely interesting in the ancient Sumerian creation story is the fact that initially man created by the gods was not able to reproduce on their own. This is why the gods modified mankind with the help of Enki and his sister Ninki. After the gods had modified mankind, so genetically engineered, Adapa was created as a fully functional human being which had the ability to reproduce. However, this modification was done without being approved by Enlil, brother of Enki and Ninki, which created a conflict among the gods. The conflict made Enlil the first adversary of human beings, and according to ancient Sumerian texts, mankind went through an extremely difficult time while serving the gods. So as you can see, there's numerous similarities between the creation story of ancient Sumer and other ancient cultures and religions around the globe. But interestingly, in all of them, we learn that mankind was literally created by the gods in their own image. So that's what's so interesting about it, and is found among almost all of the major religions, is this idea that mankind was created in the image of God. Like you see that in the Bible, you see that in the Quran.
Like as a second to God.
Right, exactly.
Like
almost a lesser being, almost. Right, a lesser version
an extension
for a purpose.
God.
So right. So that's the thing about this is like I'm gonna tell you a couple different angles on the Sumerian creation stuff, because there is like, you know, when you start looking into this stuff, you're gonna find different versions of the tale, the creation story, just like you find it, you know, with Christianity, you find it different from, you know, to evolution, to all these different theories. Everybody's got their theories of it, and there's a couple interpretations of the Sumerian creation texts. So in 1849, Sir Austin Henry Layard, who was an English archaeologist and global explorer, found himself among the ruins of ancient Babylon in southern Mesopotamia. It was there that he discovered the first pieces of what would eventually become one of archaeology's most controversial puzzles, which is the cuneiform tablets, is what we talked about, because this is where we're pulling this information about what they believed was how creation came to be.
Yeah.
And within these incredible ancient texts are stories that have uncanny resemblance to the biblical stories of creation, deities, and even a reference to a great flood and a giant ark to survive it, which is interesting.
Really interesting.
Specialists have spent decades trying to decipher these intricate symbols. One of the more fascinating aspects of cuneiform script is the evolution of the characters from the original pictogram Sumerian language to the wedge-shaped strokes of Akkadian and Assyrian writing. But the idea that this ancient civilization knew of distant star systems and had interacted with extraterrestrial life started with a controversial researcher and author named Zecharia Sitchin. Zecharia Sitchin. So this is the guy that essentially came up with the ancient astronaut theory, which we'll talk about here, which I'm sure all of you have heard.
Sorry, go ahead. Never mind.
No, I'll explain what it is. But he is a researcher. He does have a academic background. He did go to university, so he does have credibility to him. He's not just like, you know, the guy who created Scientology, like, because I can see a lot of people being like, sounds like the guy that created Scientology, just some crazy author that just came up with a bunch of bullshit, you know?
Yeah, which
some people think bullshit. Some people think that. So because
no one has all the answers, so like obviously some of what he's said is probably bullshit.
Well, he was dedicated to researching and translating these ancient cuneiform tablets. But Sitchin's ideas have been rejected by scientists and academics who dismiss his work as pseudoscience and pseudohistory. His work has been criticized for flawed methodology and mistranslations of ancient texts, as well as for incorrect astronomical and scientific claims. So some of that, which is fairly true from what I've seen. I mean, you guys can make up your own mind about it afterwards, but basically, Zecharia Sitchin came up with the ancient alien theory that is Ancient Aliens, the show is all based upon. And it basically attributes the beginnings of Mesopotamian society to a race of beings known as the Anunnaki, who traveled from a distant planet, 12th planet called Nibiru. And the Sumerian creation tales explain how the waters of Nibiru mingled with our Earth. So, like we mentioned earlier, could this be the answer to how life arrived on Earth whole and complete? So maybe it was basically sent here from this planet called Nibiru, where life already existed, because that's where this race of beings known as the Anunnaki are from, according to Zecharia Sitchin, of course. And Nibiru, being a much older planet, probably has had 1 billion of years longer time for life to evolve. So it's a much older planet, or life to have arrived on Nibiru and then evolved much longer than life here on Earth. So it's very possible that, you know, maybe another planet or another race or beings came to Nibiru a long time before that. And there's just been literally way more time passed in our universe than we even know. But the creation tale basically goes on to explain that the planet Nibiru becomes a permanent member of our solar system on a highly elliptical orbit. The Sumerians recorded this orbit to be 3,600 years to complete, and they called this a shar, S-H-A-R. A solar year for Earth is 365 days to orbit the sun. Nibiru's orbit around the sun takes 3,600 years, so 3,600 years to complete one orbit. If Nibiru does exist, or modern science might be able to see it, there are actual Sumerian tablets that show a man looking up while plowing a field. In the sky, you see circle emanating rays of light, the sun, and a cross emanating rays of light, which is interpreted as Nibiru. The Sumerians were aware of a time when they could actually see Nibiru as it came close to the inner part of our solar system. So basically stating that they observed that this other planet, because its orbit is supposed to basically like come right into Earth, like essentially like collide with Earth is what we think. So they're saying that they were around long enough that they could have seen it come close to them at one point.
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to mention that this has been sort of a thing that's come up in recent times, end of last year, because there's other people that are like prophesizing that Nibiru was going to collide with Earth and that we're all screwed and basically just make this all look like fake bullshit. And they don't really even know what the fuck they're talking about usually. But NASA actually has written an article about a possible additional planet, so a planet X, essentially. Yeah. And they've written that they're saying they can't see it, but based upon the way that the gravity acts around this area out there.
Which is like between Mars and Jupiter, right?
Mars and Jupiter? Think it is. Yeah. Well,
that's what I was just listening to someone.
Yeah, the orbit comes through. Yeah.
There's a lot more evidence for it than people realize, than I realized. We made a video about it.
Well, that's the thing is like, and we can't see it right now. Like we can't officially know that it's there. So we can't officially know where it would orbit through. Like we can't.
But there's quite a bit of evidence that it exists.
But according to the Sumerians, it's very real.
Yeah.
And that it's just got a way different orbit than all the other planets do.
Wow.
And so it's just remained hidden, basically. Or maybe NASA knows about it and they just completely, a
lot of people
keep it hush-hush because they're like, well, there is a possibility that every 3,600 years it could come and collide with Earth. So we can't tell the public about that, So.
Yeah, people would freak.
So it's very possible. I mean, it's very possible that Nibiru does exist, I think. A lot of people say that's bullshit. Neil deGrasse Tyson, people like that are like, you guys are silly. That's just like,
y'all are silly.
That's just bedtime stories. That's just fairy tales. But who knows? Maybe it is. So the Anunnaki, these beings from Nibiru, and some people have debated that Anunnaki actually means from heaven to earth came, or they came essentially. And the Anunnaki was a group of deities that lived in ancient Mesopotamia, which encompassed parts of modern-day Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Iran, and Kuwait. And they were also known as the Jedi, the Nephilim, those of royal blood, and princely offspring. Sumerian cuneiform tablets depict myths and epics that contain information about the Anunnaki. Among them include Enuma Elish, an epic that depicts the creation of humans by the gods. It bears resemblance to the story of creationism in the Bible. The Epic of Gilgamesh is an epic that details the Great Flood, which was sent by the Anunnaki. During the flood, the gods delivered instructions to build a ship to rescue a small group of humans and animals, which, as I'll talk about later, Zecharia Sitchin basically takes the Anunnaki from just being deities or gods to essentially aliens, extraterrestrials, and that the Ark was maybe perhaps a spacecraft of some sort.
Wow.
Yeah. So that leads us to what is Zecharia Sitchin's his interpretation of the Sumerian creation story, and how is it different from sort of the more generalized version of the Sumerian creation story. So, considered by many, including mainstream, to be metaphors for a creation myth, the stories of the Anunnaki can actually be found in other texts, specifically the book of Genesis in the Hebrew and Christian religions, but with many of the names altered or changed. From the creation of heaven and earth, out of a watery abyss, to the notion of being created in a higher being's image, and even in the familiar Adam and Eve and Noah's Ark stories, there's no question that these stories maintain eerily similar depictions of the origins of our species. But the question is, if these tablets are older than the Bible, then what elements of these stories are myth and how much of it is true?
Yeah.
That's the real question here. Like, how much of it is myth? How much of it is true?
But what were they just living in, like, myths? Like, their whole, like...
Well, it's just like, why would they do... Like, what's the point of wasting the time just creating myths?
Yeah, especially myths that could be taken as truth.
Just
like,
crazy
what were
stories?
They trying to trick us? They knew that they were like leaving this as like markers for us.
Is this like for Sumerian Film Festival? Like, like they had a Sumerian Hollywood or something?
Like
they're
fiction creating these, like their own Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's like
but it's like goes with our actual life. If it was like stories about like lions with, I don't know, unicorn things, or I don't know, something crazy like that, then yeah. But like this seems like just recording their history to me. Just recording what their life was like.
Right, and that's what Zecharia Sitchin,
I think we need to stop looking at all these ancient cultures and just be like, oh, they were just mything. They were just fucking around, basically. Like even going back to some of Socrates' work, it's all like, or at Plato, you know, he wrote about Atlantis, and people for a long time just was like, that's a fable, that's a myth. But now there's like a lot of evidence that it may have just been recordings of their history written in a more artistic language, just because that's how they were back in the day.
From the way it sounds, they were far more artistic than we are today, like as a collective society. Like, yeah, it seems like they were way more in tune with the arts. And
I think creativity was like valued more, like the arts and stuff.
I believe so. Absolutely. And so, you know, that's essentially the way that, you know, Zecharia Sitchin, the way he interpreted it. And I think one of the things that, you know, at least makes sense to me for why the things are the way that they are is because the current system that's in place and the current powers that be, they need history to fit in with their, you know, their version of events, their story, their narrative. They need it to fit there. And
that's how they keep it going.
You know, unfortunately, it seems to me like Christianity has been sort of hijacked and used as like their excuse for keeping things the way that it is and trying to keep things based upon, you know, what Christianity teaches.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because I think it's kind of helped things get to where they're at. Mm-hmm. And which is completely unfair to Christianity in a sense. Like they totally exploited it in a sense. And so when something comes along, you know, or something starts coming up like the Sumerians, and the Sumerians are, you know, have a similar story but completely different, and it makes sense, and people start being like, hey, this makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a threat. It's like that's a threat to their version. So it makes so much sense why this is just like, especially Zecharia Sitchin, because his school of thought basically concluded that not only is planet Nibiru real, but that the Anunnaki were a powerful race of extraterrestrials with the capacity for genetic experimentation and manipulation. So this is the ancient astronaut theory, the ancient alien theory in essence. So if the Anunnaki come from Nibiru, as the Sumerians have stated in their creation tales, they would have had to have a much longer lifespan compared to here on Earth. As an example, let's say someone from Earth travels to planet Nibiru and stays on that planet for 1 year. When they return to Earth, 3,600 years will have passed on Earth, but the person returning to Earth has only aged 1 year, if we're looking at it in that way. So this point speaks to the many of the biblical references with regards to ascending to heaven to enjoy a longer lifespan. Imagine if Jesus Christ was an Anunnaki and came here to Earth and established his following. Then he leaves Earth and returns to Nibiru for 1 year. When he returns back to Earth, he has only aged 1 year, but has been 3,600 years on Earth.
So if our creator, whether you want to call it Jesus or a deity, whatever it is, they like leave for a little bit for them, but it's like tons of times going by for us.
Right, and this is assuming that time works like the same for them.
Setting up a simulation and like letting it run and like coming back later to check on it. Like 10 years would be what? 36,000 times 10.
36,000 times 10?
Is that not what it was?
No, it's 3,600 years.
Oh, whatever. Okay. So that times 10.
No, it'd be a lot of time. And that's the thing is like if it is really gods or beings or extraterrestrials or whatever, it's like, how do we know that time? I mean, I guess according to them, if that's the way that, if time works the way that it does.
Yeah, I'm saying according to them.
So yeah, it'd be thousands of years. Yeah.
So it seems like more realistic to me that way.
I mean, like what if like every 3,600 years, like it sort of resets? Like it's like Nibiru comes back, the creators come back. So they start over,
maybe they
start fresh and see how we're doing and then start over or something. I don't know.
Weird. That gets your mind going.
So one of the more compelling arguments for this fact is that science has recently revealed that there's probably a global catastrophic flood that took place about 10,000 years ago. And they found this out through scientific research and drilling core ice samples. Actually, they drilled core ice samples and they're actually able to see the water levels. I believe after the last ice age, it was like right around there. And there was like the water levels were like
way
there
more.
was the earth was flooded.
Totally.
Which is crazy. And I always thought like, I grew up religious and learning about Christianity. And of course, I think everybody's heard the story of Noah and Noah's Ark. And, in the Bible, there's a great flood that literally floods the entire planet. And so we're basically confirming that event did happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, whether or not, Noah built a boat and put a bunch of animals on it and sailed, floated around till the water receded, that's another thing. That's another debate. But the fact that there was a great flood is very interesting. And not only that, but the asteroid impact we talked about. So I think it's very clear that civilization is a cycle.
Yeah.
And there's these cataclysmic events that sort of restart the cycle.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So, yeah, the Great Flood is real. And I mean, I think a lot of people would probably, if you were to tell them like there was a flood 10,000 years ago that flooded the entire planet, they'd probably look at you like you're fucking crazy and be like, what?
Yeah, they would actually.
Like, or think that assume you're a Christian or something like that. Cause I think most Christians would agree that they believe that, the story of Noah was actually happened. So,
yeah.
But again, according to the text, some type of ship or ark saved a small portion of the human population while the rest perished in the flood. And after the flood, the Anunnaki returned to Earth to reign for centuries. And of course, this tale bears a striking resemblance to the biblical tale of Noah's Ark. And what's curious and what's interesting is that it's possible that the Anunnaki used some sort of ship to rescue some humans from the flood. But what type of ship was it? Was it a large boat like the one used in Noah's Ark, or could it have been a spaceship? So that's Zecharia Sitchin believes that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings that had the ability to interstellar travel. And so they were able to create a large spaceship, essentially.
Makes a lot of sense.
And save, I guess, who they wanted to save. I mean, and that's the thing is what's the purpose of the flood? Why have this flood? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's like where it's like, I don't know. Why would there be a flood, and why would the gods want to flood the earth? Why would they do that? Just to like clean slate it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So where are the Anunnaki now? Where are they? And Zecharia Sitchin held a pretty unique view regarding the reasons for the Anunnaki presence here on Earth. According to his research, he concluded that the Anunnaki reigned on the planet Earth for thousands of years. They were here for thousands of years, apparently. And they obviously arrived from the planet Nibiru, which Zecharia Sitchin believed 100% existed in our solar system, well outside of Neptune and Pluto's orbits. And that the first Anunnaki arrived on Earth probably 450,000 years ago, looking for minerals, especially gold, which, according to him, they found and mined in Africa, which is interesting because you always wonder, like when talking about why would an extraterrestrial interstellar race want to come to Earth? Like, what would be their purpose?
Yeah.
Why leave their planet and come here? Why go through all the trouble to do that?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So, according to Zecharia Sitchin, he believes they came here for the gold. That gold is somehow an important resource to the Anunnaki beings.
Interesting. God, I wish I could have the answers to all this.
But the fact that he believes they arrived 450,000 years ago, that's way. So they were here far before the Sumerians, which makes me wonder, is it possible if we just think for a minute that this is the true story to things, then maybe, and I believe there's others out there that follow this train of thought that I'm about to say, and is that, again, there have been ages to the planet. There's been like ages to the Earth where there's been a full circle of civilization, possibly to an even more advanced point of civilization than we've even achieved now. In the past, over these thousands and thousands of years, millions of years, billions of years potentially. What if there's been hundreds of thousands of civilizations, advanced civilizations, maybe different variations of humans, or even completely different beings altogether that have lived on this planet?
I mean, I think that would make a lot of sense.
For thousands of years, but then the gods or the Anunnaki or whoever you want to call it
takes them out.
Starts over and resets it. Crickets.
Well, I mean, it's just kind of like
it's crazy. A lot to think about.
It's very confusing because I feel like I've heard so many different like versions of how long everything's been around, and the Great Year I think is way longer than just like a couple thousand years.
It's like 20
I thought it was 24,000 years.
Yeah, it's like 24, 25 or 26,000 years. It's something like that.
I don't know. And then I don't know. It's very confusing to me, all of this.
But it's interesting that all the ancient cultures sort of all come back to the same idea of these stages of civilization and on this planet.
Well, that's like the
you can go back. I think go back to the Hindus, the Buddhists. Like they all have the same sort of idea that it's a cycle. It's like this cycle that goes around. So that's what it seems like. But Zecharia Sitchin stated that these gods, or Anunnaki, were the rank and file workers of the colonial expedition to Earth from planet Nibiru. And it's a theory that has been ruled out as quite simply preposterous by academics and peer-reviewed archaeologists around the world since it was first proposed. And there are many ancient alien theorists who refuse to consider Sitchin's contributions due to his lack of empirical evidence and the fact that his is a translation of the tablets that many cuneiform experts do not agree with. So that's something to keep in mind, is a lot of people disagree with him, a lot of people, including even some other ancient astronaut theorists, which if you've ever watched Ancient Aliens, they've probably talked about these cuneiform tablets and these creation tales on there. But it's worth mentioning that when you start looking into this stuff, especially Zecharia Sitchin, one of the first sites that comes up is stitchiniswrong.com.
Yeah.
And this website claims that Zecharia Sitchin completely made up these translations to fit his narrative. Because at the end of the day, he did write a bunch of books and sold millions of copies of this story, of his version of what he is saying, how things went down, except the fact that he believes it's like fact, like this is the real history.
So crazy.
But even to this day, many modern researchers believe that some of Zecharia Sitchin's work is legitimate and could be used in help in translating other tablets by creating a context for the names and stories of these ancient people. So the question of why the Anunnaki came to Earth is a topic that's highly debated. And I'm sure we'll probably get comments of people that are telling different theories. Because the thing is, there's all sorts of interpretations. Tons of people have looked at these and come up with variations for what they believe the creation tales were. So by no means do I have all the answers with this, or this is just some of the more popular ones I think that are out there. But
yeah,
it's a theory, guys. It's a theory. You can theorize any which way you want. But some of the theories include that the Anunnaki came to Earth to look for gold to mine in Africa. And there's actually is evidence of gold mining in some parts of Africa, which would support this theory. Another theory is that they created the modern human race for their own benefits, specifically to mine for gold.
I'll die if that is the truth about it. You guys...
So we're slaves. Basically, we're slaves.
For our purpose, what is the meaning of life?
We're just slaves.
You were literally made to mine fucking gold.
Well, we've done a shitty job. The gods are not going to reward us if that's our purpose.
Oh, that's going to suck if that's the purpose. That would suck. I feel so pointless. I haven't mined any gold. Because
the thing about it is like there are a decent amount of people that believe that we are genetically engineered hybrid beings of this Anunnaki race and Earth animals, essentially Earth animal DNA, which is how they created humans. Or maybe the Anunnaki were just sent to watch over humans. Maybe they're here to just kind of like watch out for us in a way, because they're our creators. They're here watching over us, which could be.
Yeah, that definitely could be.
But there's actually a researcher named Michael Tellinger who claims to have found forensic evidence to support many of the unsubstantiated claims that Sitchin made in the last century. Michael Tellinger holds that there is in fact evidence of gold mining in parts of South Africa, and that some of the references in Sitchin's translation of the Sumerian text can be attributed to actual places there, with landmarks and megalithic structures that fit the narrative perfectly. The Sumerians are renowned for their sophisticated astronomy and mathematical abilities, which was allegedly passed down to them from the Anunnaki, according to Zecharia Sitchin. Which, hey, at least he's providing a solution to that question, or an answer to that question, because I think that's the biggest mystery to the Sumerians, is like, how did they know this stuff? How did they figure it out?
I know.
How did they create all this stuff with no help, unaided? What were they aided by? That's the biggest mystery here.
Yeah.
So,
God, like, I think the thing that trips me out the most is their knowledge that planets were orbiting a sun.
With no telescope, as far as we know, no device that could enhance their view.
How the fuck did they do that?
Were they like astral projecting and like flying through space, like seeing them for themselves? Like, what was going on? How did they do this?
It's so obvious we got info from someone, because unless they were fucking astronauts themselves and they went up there and saw it all, right, or they had a way of sending a device up there to film it, how would they have known? Obviously someone helped them. Something helped them.
Or they were this, like, perhaps they were like a different type of species than us. Like, maybe they're just they're like this hybrid being. If in fact they are a hybrid being of the Anunnaki, maybe they have this ability to, I don't know, this ability to see more than we can see, or know more. Or maybe that all of those things were already known by the Anunnaki, and we just took the things that we knew that they gave us and put them into play and put them into use. It's just so crazy. That's like the biggest mystery, I think. Because in addition to astronomy and mathematics, the Sumerians had a deep understanding of energy fields, which is also, we also believe the Egyptians did too. Because they clearly had enough knowledge to understand. Like, it's so obvious that they understood that there is this energy field around the Earth, whether it's Earth's magnetic field, but there's a source of energy that it seems that they tapped into. Or maybe this is where they get the knowledge from. Maybe it's not gods, or maybe it's just this energy that exists around the planet, around all the planets, around the universe. It's just this energy that makes up all of us. It makes up atoms. It makes up everything. It's literally the lifeblood of the universe, this energy. And maybe it's like we as humans, through, or our consciousness is somehow, or our soul is somehow plugged into this energy field, and it feeds us these ideas.
That's trippy.
Because, I mean, think about it. Like, how do people even get ideas to do stuff, to build stuff? Where do those ideas come from?
I don't know.
Come from the ether, but that, like, what's the ether? You know, it's like, it's so mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
It seriously is.
It blows your mind thinking about it, because it's like, how did we get this stuff? Did we just literally think this up out of nothing? Like, where did it come from? It had to come from somewhere. It originated from somewhere. It had to.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they took this knowledge and had the ability to create the technology to construct these ziggurats and monoliths in accordance with the stars, and just like the Egyptians, they can align them with constellations.
How much of a society they had going to, like, how many, like, rules and
way more advanced than you even thought.
Yeah, way more.
I think we all thought they were just like cavemen walking around, like,
like fighting and killing each other. Yeah.
That's mine. Like,
that's mine.
I'm saying, mine. You know, like, that's how we think of it. As a kid, especially, you think about this. You're like, they're just a bunch of dummies.
Like Dave the Barbarian.
Yeah, exactly. You think of that, and like that, like, I think that's literally how they want you to think about history. It being is like just this, like, extremely unadvanced, just primitive society. But that's not the case. They had knowledge that we have right now and had structures and architecture and arts, music, knowledge of the space and like the cosmos. It's like, what the hell? How did they know this shit?
What the hell?
What the I mean, like, it's clear that the ancient Sumerians, if the Anunnaki were real and gave them this knowledge, had a clear, deep fascination and respect for them.
Yeah.
Because they did praise them as gods. And they credited the Anunnaki for their advanced knowledge. But with no concrete record of how the Anunnaki arrived in Mesopotamia, it's quite possible these intelligent beings did indeed arrive from another world as described in the ancient texts, according to Zecharia Sitchin. And why did they feel the need to give us such powerful knowledge? Was it a generous gift, or is there some other motive, or is there some ulterior motive? Like, why?
Yeah.
And did they ever leave? Like, did the Anunnaki ever leave? We don't know. Perhaps they're still walking among us, for all we know.
They totally could be.
Like, what if they were? Like, what if they're fucking here right now? And like,
I know you said that the other day. The whole like people always think about gray people. You know, think aliens are little gray things, and they could be just like us. And I think it would make a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure we're similar to them if we really are half their DNA. Which I didn't get to bring this up, but Sumerians also like had this one symbol that is repeating in their tablets over and over again that looks like it's like a snake interwinding. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think it's DNA, that they had knowledge of like DNA and if we really were created, you know, if aliens assisted in altering our DNA or something like that. You know,
clearly they had they knew, I mean, they had the ability to genetically engineer things.
Yeah, and they would have like awareness. It's just very interesting.
It's not, I don't think it's totally ridiculous to consider that at all. But the thing about it, and the thing that's so frustrating about the Sumerians just in general is the fact that cuneiform experts are few and far between. And there are 1,000 tablets, like we said, 500,000 tablets yet to be dated and deciphered in order to draw a definitive conclusion about the nature of these creation stories and historical information. And regardless of whether or not it's true, this is obviously an extremely fascinating theory and worth exploring further. Like, you know, like if maybe Zecharia Sitchin was dead on, like he got it dead on, and it's just so like different from what our perception of history was like that it just freaks us out. So we want to, you know, make it fit the way that we look at things now, you know? So totally sucks. Maybe I should go into cuneiform study. I want to know.
You should go into it.
I'm just going to start trying to learn that. All right. So to play devil's advocate, because I think it's important to always have some bit of skepticism with things, let's talk about stitchingiswrong.com per sec.
Stitchingiswrong.com.
And again, like anybody that goes out of their way to like make a whole website, like trying to like debunk somebody who's like clearly has some sort of something to prove here. So the guy that runs the site is named Dr. Michael Heiser, and he has a PhD in Hebrew, Bible, and ancient Semitic languages from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So he is essentially he's a Bible expert and clearly believes that the Bible's probably fact, honestly, it seems like.
Yeah.
So here's I'm just going to read some of the things that he said about some of the things that Zecharia Sitchin talked about. So Nibiru. So according to Dr. Heiser, he says, unfortunately for Sitchin and his followers, the answer to each of these questions is no. But how do I know? The cuneiform record in such texts as the astronomical text known as Mul Apin, the plow star is what it's known as. He says that basically Zecharia Sitchin's translation, which includes the following information, the actual cuneiform record in which he believes this information is found doesn't exist, essentially. That there is that Nibiru is completely made up, and that Nibiru connects with the Anunnaki, as well as Nibiru cycling through our solar system every 3,600 years. So basically he's saying there's no record of this in this particular cuneiform text. Which is possible. I mean, I don't know. I can't read this shit. So maybe he's right. But he also said Mr. Sitchin is making up the Anunnaki. And he said he claims that in all of the translated Sumerian texts, there is no mention of the word Anunnaki, which is interesting. And the way that
that is, where did that come from then?
Right. Well, that's the thing, is we don't know. I mean, Zecharia Sitchin is the one that brought that forward, the Anunnaki.
And it never says anything like that.
Well, that's the thing. And supposedly there's a site where you can actually search some of the Sumerian texts that have been electronically translated, and you can search it like kind of like a library.
They should all be able to be translated.
But that's weird. The thing is, like, how do we even know the people who are translating it know how to translate it?
They probably don't.
Like, it seems like it's a lot of guessing, because like,
yeah, it is.
Nobody should know how to do that. Like, how would they know? So
exactly, like, oh, this guy lived in Sumeria, so he knows how. Exactly, like, how does anyone fucking really know?
Unless literally somebody can prove
there's like wrong, like our translations of it are somewhat wrong.
That's the thing, and honestly,
like, only they would fucking know.
Right.
The dudes who wrote it.
Or if there was like some descendant of the Sumerians that like had learned how to read it over the thousands of years, then that could be another scenario. So when talking about all this, I think you have to take it all with a grain of salt, because it's like there's a possibility that, Zecharia Sitchin can be completely making up this whole story about the Anunnaki and Nibiru and everything else. But there's all, on the flip side, he could also be 100% correct. So, which is it? So he also goes on to talk about Genesis, the book of Genesis in Mesopotamia, Dr. Heiser does. And he says that one of the great myths perpetrated by Zecharia Sitchin and those who promote his material is that the material of Genesis book, chapter 1, verse 11, and other parts of the Bible are borrowed from the Sumerians and Akkadians. This was the predominant view in biblical scholarship nearly 150 years ago, but the idea now has been abandoned. The reasons are several. More is known today about the Sumerian and Akkadian. These languages were just beginning to be deciphered and studied in the mid to late 19th century. Scholars today have a deeper understanding or a deeper knowledge of the linguistic disconnections between those languages and material in Genesis than ever before.
So we need to relook at this shit.
That's the thing, and we need to relook at everything. We need to relook at
we need a whole
everything.
Another fucking look at it.
Everything. Life as we know it needs to be reevaluated, because
I know. Some people think it's so set in stone and figured out. That's so funny. That's funny that people think they know what they're doing.
So basically, this guy is a Bible scholar, and he goes on to say that Zecharia Sitchin basically came up with a lot of things from the Sumerian text that go against what the Bible says. So because a lot of people consider the Bible as like historical fact, which I don't believe it's necessarily historical fact. Is there historical, is there timelines and references and names and things like that line up with history? Absolutely. But I personally don't believe. I've read the Bible several times, cover to cover, actually.
Damn, really?
Yeah. I've read it at least twice. Yeah, at least twice in my life I have. Yeah, twice at least. The whole Bible.
Wow.
All the way through.
When I went to Sunday school with my friends, like, I would read maybe a sentence and give up.
It's hard to, that's the thing. And you can get different versions that are easier to read too. That's what's interesting.
Oh, do they have that?
There's the King James version, which is harder to read than like the new.
Is there like a Bible for dummies though? That's just like in normal words.
Oh yeah. There's picture Bibles.
I had a picture Bible when I was a kid.
I did too.
I had one that was drawn by other kids and they were like submitted.
Oh,
I used to love that. Yeah.
So, that's the thing is like, again, there's many translations of it. So like, what did the Bible look like in its raw form? We don't know, because nobody has that.
Well, its raw form must have been, it's not like it was a bound little book.
No, it was pieced together, obviously. Yeah, it wasn't like the Bible was
it
whole.
Before? It was just like probably
tablets, dude.
Yeah. So
if you go back to the story of Abraham, he had the tablets that contain the 10 commandments from God. God wrote on tablets, stone tablets, saying, "Yo, here's the laws to the land.
1, 2, 3.
Take it to your people and spread the word."
Here's what you can't do.
And people still follow the 10 commandments today. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, all
what is
of that.
It? Thou shalt not kill.
It's one of them the same things as the code of Uru, Namu.
We're not doing a very good job of following the commandments as a society.
No, dude, everybody sucks at the commandments.
What's the point?
But the commandments were thousands of years ago. going all the way back to like ancient Egyptian times.
Yeah.
Because that was about the time that like or that was before that, I think. But that's the thing is like,
seems like it all links back to something older than that.
Right. All of it goes back to like a central point that we just don't know for sure what it was. But all these religions and civilizations all kind of run parallel with each other, and they all share these similarities. But these biblical scholars don't like when others come forward with new ideas and new versions of events to history, and especially religious views and gods and deities, because the Bible clearly makes it that it's a monotheistic religion, one God. There's only one God. There's not these multiple deities. There's not extraterrestrials. It's God, man. So that's why I think this guy has it out for Sitchin, is I think he's like, I'm going to make sure I squash this guy like a bug so he can't, so people know when they go searching, they're like, okay, now I can see the refuted argument. So here's a few other interesting things about the ancient Sumerians you may not know. One of the larger Sumerian cities actually may have had 80,000 residents, which doesn't seem like a lot of people in modern times, but back then,
that's a lot.
That's a lot of fucking people.
Before population got out of hand.
Yeah, got really out of hand. But major Sumerian city-states included Eridu, Ur, Nippur, Lagash, and Kish. But one of the oldest and most sprawling was Uruk, a thriving trading hub that boasted 6 miles of defensive walls and a population of between 40,000 and 80,000. At its peak around 2800 BC, it was most likely the largest city in the world at the time. Like we've been saying this entire podcast, the Sumerians believed in multiple gods and deities, and the main gods worshipped by the ancient Sumerians were Anu, the god of heaven, Enlil, the god of the air, Enki, god of knowledge, Ereshkigal, goddess of the underworld, Inanna, goddess of warfare, Namu, Ninhursag, Nana, god of the moon, and Utu, god of the sun, among others. And what's interesting is, again, look at all the ancient civilizations. They all have just different names, but essentially they could be talking about the same thing.
Same thing, like
the same gods.
They could be, what is it? Nina? Which one's the god of the moon? Nana?
Nana.
That'd be like Apollo for the Greeks. Right.
And the Egyptians had, they had their, the sun god. God, I'm blanking on the names, but they all have Ra. Yeah, right. Ra, exactly.
It's interesting that they had like gods of
these different,
them, yeah,
and especially of these astrological entities.
And it's like in all of these texts, it seems like the sun and the moon are so profoundly important. Like in a lot of these cultures, for like we have, there's always a god of the moon or a god of the sun.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is always. Like there's always so much significance put in to the cosmos.
And I mean, if you think about it though, like the moon and the sun are such a huge part of our daily life here. We see it every day. It's part of the
how we know
solar system that we do get to see.
How we fucking know what day it is.
Right. It gives us life. We've already talked about it like a bunch on this podcast, I guess, but how important it is. And it seems like the older cultures really understood that and like worshipped the sun and they should. We should be fucking worshiping the sun.
Seriously.
Honestly. Thank God we have it, or else we'd be dead.
And we should be utilizing it.
Yeah, we should.
We should be utilizing it. Yeah, it's
like disrespectful, honestly, that we have that ability. We know how to use it, and we're just fucking not. And it's not our fault, like the average person's fault. Like we clearly we can go back to the five
fucking corporations,
fucking five families.
Yeah,
talk
the way
again.
They set it up, right?
But yeah,
they set it up so that we go away from this old, what they considered ancient forms of living, and instead made God money, or made God money. Made money their god. They essentially flipped it.
Well, they made it so that we treat money as a god. God, like money is like our main objective as humans.
But some people worship that shit, man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So for many, it could be considered their god.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Money is the thing they think about when they wake up.
Money is what makes the world go round, dude.
Right.
If that's not a god, I don't know what is.
Right. And clearly, if we're looking at society from the beginning, that's not something that we should be doing. Like,
no,
we're missing the point here big time. We're missing the objective here?
I think we've like definitely come to the conclusion that we are for sure fucking up and doing it wrong. Like we are for sure missing the point, as you just said. Like if the gods do come back and check on us, I think in a way it's gonna be the most like humbling thing. You know, it'll really shake everyone because it's like, dude, you guys, it's like our parents coming home from work.
What the hell?
What the fuck are you all doing down
These
here?
These Anunnaki are going to come back and be like, what the fuck? We left you with all the tools and information to make a great society where everybody can flourish.
Yeah.
What the hell
we
did you guys
sent you
do?
Nikola Tesla and you did nothing.
And you fucking stole from him, exploited him,
and then fucking kept it a secret.
Then fucking censored all of that info. That's
some bullshit. Oh my God.
Dude.
We're failing. I feel like we're failing. I feel like whatever we're doing here, down here on Earth is wrong. Like we are wrong.
And we're just going farther and farther away from it, I feel like.
I think we're going further towards it. Like I honestly feel more like hopeful about the future than I ever have. Seriously.
No, I totally agree with you. I'm just saying like as a whole collective society, the way that it's been going for like the past 50, 100 years or whatever.
But I feel like we're heading in a different direction now.
Yes, things are changing, I think. I think it's getting better.
I was thinking about it. This is so random, but I was listening to Ariana Grande's song, God is a Woman, in the bath today. And I was thinking about it. Like if we're at the time now in 2018 where we can even say that, and like, and obviously she's talking about like sexual stuff and it's not supposed to be like a religious thing, but like, I think it's so interesting and woke, and I feel like women are truly being held to different, like imagine 100 years from now where we're going to be if we're at where we're at now. I feel like we're headed towards the future. That sounds so dumb. Ariana Grande is the reason we're heading towards the future, but I'm just saying like society's accepting things differently and thinking differently. Like that music video is pretty like trippy and it's pretty cool for like a mainstream pop star to say stuff like that and for people to accept it, and it's like a top song right now.
Well, if
Does that make any sense?
No, it makes 100% complete sense to me. And if you want to be honest, like, there's absolutely no fucking reason that women should have ever been looked at lesser beings in the first place.
Hey, we birth everyone
Literally,
here.
the fact that women have been suppressed and pushed below men and walked over, taken advantage of, exploited.
If anything, we are the closest thing to a god here on this planet.
Morally,
we create life out of our bodies.
Wrong. It's just completely wrong. It goes against everything. And speaking of women, the list of Sumerian rulers included one woman.
Hell yeah.
So there was at least a woman. Same with Egypt.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're even at that time, look how long it took the fucking US to, we still don't have a woman president.
No.
We haven't had one female representing this country. Not one.
Not one.
And we're at what? How many presidents? 40?
And imagine
almost 50 years.
The lack of bullshit there would be.
Dude, seriously.
I'm just saying. I really think like, don't want to start like a sexist debate or anything, but I seriously think the world would be better off if it was run by women. We just think differently.
Or at least involved, with, like aided or anything.
At least equally represented and equally involved.
Right.
Hey, I wouldn't mind running the whole thing too, though.
No, seriously though. I mean, it's. I think things could be different if we had not, lowered women on the totem pole and put them below men, and had this for years and years and years this sexist culture of men are the dominant one and women should just fucking roll over and take it, and just like shut it. Like the fact that there was actually times in human history where that happened.
That we weren't allowed to vote like not that long ago. Yeah. Not that fucking long ago, guys. Seriously, it's pretty crazy to think like what would I think if I was told you don't get to have a say in this because you're a girl. And I've never had to have that. Like it shocks me that wasn't even that long ago, that we didn't even have that right to even elect someone. I mean, what the hell? There's no chance for a woman ever getting elected if only men can vote.
That's what I'm saying. It's been a completely rigged system.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a completely rigged system.
We all know that, right? It's rigged against women. It's rigged against certain races. We live in a rigged ass society. This whole world is rigged. Income, wealth, education, all of that.
It's not an equal and fair world for all. It's just not. It's been manipulated, and people have become greedy and selfish and self-absorbed and don't care. that they're putting themselves over other human life. It's just like, and I mean, I want to be optimistic here and say that I think that we're flipping the script, and I think we're starting to see a huge change happening. And, you know, I think we are in fact headed into a new age of civilization and society and culture. And I think things in our lifetime, at least, should get better, at least a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think things are starting to, you know, people are waking up from the illusion thanks to, you know, people like us and others and anybody that just decides to stop just, you know, feeding on the lies and feeding on this, you know, this version of reality that they've created for us, and realizing and, you know, having that Truman Show moment where you're like at the fucking wall and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? I've been inside this thing. I need to bust out of here and see and really see what is out there. And like the Sumerians are like, it's a perfect example of like, holy fuck. Like, I imagine like our society's way of thinking if we had taken this seriously and like if we had funneled all of our money and resources into the Sumerians, like you would think that we'd want to like fucking decipher all of these. We should have all of this deciphered. We should be striving to figure this out because this is our history. This is the history of our civilization. So it's just crazy that it's literally just almost being forgotten. So that's why it's good to talk about this stuff. But back to the Sumerians, one of the greatest sources of information on ancient Mesopotamia is the so-called king list, which is a clay tablet that documents the names of the most of the ancient rulers of Sumer, as well as the lengths of their reigns. And that's where we found the woman there as well. And some people, you know, some say that this is just a blend of historical fact and myth because one early king is said to have lived for 43,200 years, which is like what I said earlier. I think there's a possibility that humans lived far longer than we even can imagine or think is possible. They could have lived for hundreds, even maybe thousands of years, I think. But one of the most interesting details about the Sumerian king list is the fact that the earliest list describes 8 kings who ruled over Earth for a total of 241,200 years, since the original kingship had descended from heaven all the way to the time of the Great Flood, which swept over the land, and once more the kingship was lowered from heaven after the flood. Which, to me, the way that I decipher that is that maybe there's a possibility that the Sumerian history goes back way, way, way farther than we even know. Thousands of years before, because at the end of the day, we don't know when the Sumerians exactly showed up. We don't even know where they came from. We don't even know how it came to be. They were just there. And the reason we know they were there is because we found their shit. We found their tablets. We found their ziggurats. We found their stuff. That's how we know. So it's possible they were there far, far longer. But Sumer's lone female monarch in the form of Kubaba, a woman tavern keeper who supposedly took the throne in the city-state of Kish sometime around 2500 BC. The Sumerian king list describes a time on Earth when gods ruled for thousands of years over mankind, which is interesting. So maybe there was a point like before, you know, the Sumerians kind of took over their civilization where the gods, or maybe the Anunnaki or whatever, these beings or extraterrestrials even actually just ruled over Earth at that time. But what's crazy is that Sumerian culture was actually lost to history until the 19th century. So from the time that it existed to the time that it ended, it became completely lost and wasn't actually discovered until the 19th century. After Mesopotamia was occupied by the Amorites and Babylonians in the early 2nd millennium BC, the Sumerians gradually lost their cultural identity and they ceased to exist as a political force. All knowledge of their history, language, and technology, even their name, was eventually forgotten. Their secrets remained buried in the deserts of Iraq until the 19th century, when French and British archaeologists finally stumbled upon Sumerian artifacts while hunting for evidence of the ancient Assyrians. Scholars such as Henry Rawlinson, Edward Hinnix, Julius Oper, and Paul Hout later took the lead in deciphering the Sumerian language in cuneiform, providing historians with their first ever glimpse of the long-lost history and literature of early Mesopotamia. So since the 19th century, we've recovered numerous pieces of Sumerian art. In fact, we continue to when we excavate, especially in the Middle East and Iraq. We are still continuing to dig up Sumerian artifacts. And again, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of clay tablets, which have yet to be translated. So just imagine the information that is on those tablets, or the stories, or the details. It seemed like they were very intelligent, very highly advanced society. They clearly had this knowledge and technology thousands of years ago. So maybe they actually wrote down how they got it exactly, where they got it from. Maybe we can confirm, if we continue to decipher these tablets, whether or not Zecharia Sitchin is telling the truth or not, or this is, indeed fact that there was this, race of gods or deities or beings called the Anunnaki that, and, Nibiru, maybe there's more information out there that has yet to be found or translated to solidify this as fact. So I think it's just such a interesting thing to ponder about and to think about the origins of humans. And, my views on it have completely changed from when I was a kid to now, and just discovering this. And I think it's just crazy and absurd that we don't teach.
It's like, honestly, offensive.
About the Sumerian civilization.
I'd be offended if I were them.
In school.
It's ridiculous.
Other than a few pages or a chapter or something. Or when
they were so influential for us and so interesting. I mean, God, talk about trying to get kids interested in history and in school. Talking about stuff like this would definitely pique interest. Like, how do you guys think that they knew this? Imagine the discussion in a classroom.
Talk about like little minds opening up. Like kids would be able to ponder about
Instead,
this.
they're like, okay, memorize the Chinese dynasties.
That's the thing. School is all memorization.
So
it's all, here's this.
This
is fact. This is fact. This is fact. Your textbook is fact. Everything in here is solid. It's all backed up by proof. You don't need to look anywhere else. Don't need to question it. You don't need to fucking, look at any other sources. Your textbook is the law. Because that's the way they program you. That's the way they program you. The school programs you to believe what you're going to believe. So does, religion in a lot of sense sort of programs you to think one way. And so you just never even think to consider other alternatives, especially when it's literally being touted as pseudoscience or, just complete bullshit or made up stories. So I get why people just, like, it's just all bullshit. It's all, fake. But when you actually take the time to look into it and you start piecing it together, like we've said a million times on this podcast, is like, when you start learning all this stuff, you start connecting the dots and you start thinking deeply and opening your mind about it. You start connecting the dots and
asking questions.
The dots are connected, just like the constellations connect.
And congratulations, you've made it through 2 hours and 20 minutes or around that for this podcast.
About 2 hours.
So you have learned some things today.
So yeah, hopefully.
What have you learned? Let us know what you didn't know in the comments. I want to know what you guys didn't know.
Yeah, and let us know what you think of the Sumerian creation story. Like, do you think that there's a possibility that, we are the offspring of extraterrestrial race like the Anunnaki or something?
I really think they could have genetically.
Life started here because of this panspermia theory.
Oh, before we go, this is really interesting. There's like this Anunnaki picture. I wish I could find it, but it literally has like a little like humanoid sitting on the lap of them. It's like one of their drawings of this like kind of strange being, and then it's like literally like a little monkey sitting on its lap.
That's
we're like the children.
There's a lot of pictures that suggest that a lot of this is true, including some depictions of pictograms that look like some claim spaceships and stuff. So it's possible. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's possible. They were aliens and they were flying around in spacecraft and they had advanced technology. They had the ability to do all these things. And maybe the knowledge that the Sumerians had was passed on to them by some other, higher race or being or deity or whatever you want to call it. So let us know what you think, though. I'm very curious to see your guys' thoughts. And, if you have other points to add or different things. Obviously, I can't possibly find everything on the Anunnaki or the Sumerians, but I think this gives a pretty decent overview of them, what they were known for, what they believed, how they believed the origin of humans happened. I mean, I think it's a very good start. So, maybe we'll even expand on this in a future episode, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a huge thumbs up. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes if you're listening or wherever you're listening from. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, guys, thank you for joining us for episode 26, or is this 27? I might have the number mixed up, but I think it's 27 actually.
Is it?
I think it is, yeah.
Oh.
I forgot to change the number.
Oh, so did I say it wrong in the beginning?
Yeah, I think we did.
No, I thought last time was the 25th one. You're always ahead one time.
I don't know. My mind is just in the clouds these days. I feel like I'm just like, I don't even know what's reality.
Too much cloud nine?
I'm like, yeah, too much cloud nine. I'm like, what is around me?
All right. Well, this has been a long one. I hope you guys liked it. Let us know what you think of the length of this. People are always requesting. It's interesting. Some people are like, make this shorter so it fits my commute. And then some people are like, make it longer because I want to make 3 commutes out of it. I want to.
Well, here's a long one for you today,
here
guys.
You go.
So
hope you enjoy.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
And stay woke.
We will see you next time.